who testified, okay? I don't think there's any reasonable person who could argue that there's a racial element so far as the prosecution, okay? And I don't think anyone who's reasonable could argue that Carmelo Anthony was not guilty of murder. And all this talk, was it premeditated or not? Well, he brought a knife that was between 3.5 and 5 inches long. He brought a knife to a school event. Why would you go to an event at a high school? It's multiple high schools, by the way. Why would you go to a school event with a knife? Anyone got any answers to that? And when I go through the details of it, everything Carmelo Anthony did along the way was an escalation to the next step. It's a tragedy. Austin Metcalf is dead. He lost his life. He lost everything, right? Young guy, high school kid. He'll never go to college. He'll never have a wife. He'll never have children. He'll never have grandchildren, right? His poor twin brother who has to live with this. Oh, my goodness. And Carmelo Anthony destroyed his own life by his actions. I mean, it's a tragedy. Don't misunderstand me. But this verdict and this sentencing, there's nothing about it that's a racial injustice. The O.J. Simpson verdict, that was a racial injustice. If you remember, one of the jurors gave O.J. Simpson the Black Power fist after the verdict was read. Remember that? It's not widely reported because they don't want you to know about all that. That was a juror gave him the Black Power fist. They knew he was guilty, and they didn't care because he killed 2 white people. The radio show will start in less than a minute. I'm going to open up the radio show, and then I'll go through the details of what happened on this really sad day where Austin Metcalf was murdered by Carmelo Anthony. I talked about this on my podcast yesterday afternoon, and it was the first time I had covered the story. And the reason I did is I didn't see much of a conflict. It was pretty clear cut. And now I'm seeing what these race pimps are doing, and it has to be covered. So that's what we're going to do. Welcome to the program, everyone. My name is Brian Craig. You are listening to Florida's longest running radio show, The Steve Kane Show, on the radio since 1977, celebrating 49 years on the radio. We've got a lot to cover on the show today. I will cover the primaries. And yes, the Democrats elected a Nazi to run as the Democrat nominee for United States Senate in Maine. And we will cover that. But I'm going to start today talking about a story we've not covered on the program, I don't think once. I don't think we've discussed this once since this happened. And I'm talking about the Carmelo Anthony case. And I was not going to talk about the Carmelo Anthony case on the program this morning. I did a very detailed podcast on this yesterday afternoon after the verdict came out for some very important reasons. And then when I get up this morning and start doing my show prep, I see what the Democrats are up to. The Democrats are trying to start a race war in this country over the Carmelo Anthony case. You know, I have covered and discussed and been involved and taken live calls, and we've done this show over the years. Steve longer than me, obviously, because he's been on the air since 77, but he was in broadcasting even back in the 60s. But around the time I started on the air was Rodney King. And I've been involved in all these cases, from Rodney King to Michael Brown to Trayvon Martin, many more. The Duke lacrosse team, remember that one? To this one. And the reason that I haven't brought up the Carmelo Anthony case during all this time is I have followed it. but it was clear cut. There's no racial injustice here. Carmelo Anthony murdered this child at the track meet, and that's it. It's a clear-cut case. And then when the verdict is read yesterday, I see these race pimps coming out of the woodwork. And then this morning, I even see more of them. And they're calling it a lynching, a legal lynching, racism, all these things. The verdict's unjust. What are they talking about? Austin Metcalf is dead. He was stabbed to death by Carmelo Anthony at a school track meet. It's clear cut. So what I'm going to do, because so many people are rendering opinions on it, they're talking about it, but they're not telling you what happened. So I'm going to do that here early on before I take calls. And I do want to take your calls on this, regardless of your viewpoint, whether you agree with me or not. The only injustice here is that Carmelo Anthony did not get life. He got 35 years, and he's eligible for parole in 17 and a half years. Now, for a kid his age, 17 years, 35 years, it will seem like a life sentence, but it's not. And he should receive a life sentence. I am against the death penalty. I am pro-life, all right? So, you know, but life in prison is what he should have gotten. I'm going to go through what happened at the track meet, okay? And I'm going to do this because people need to hear what really happened so that when you give your opinion, it's an informed opinion, because everyone's talking about it, but they're not really telling you what happened, okay? Now, this is an account that's on the Fox News website. I did post this on my X, at Brian Craig Show, and this is from the court record and the testimony of the multiple eyewitnesses who were there. At the center of the case was a confrontation that unfolded beneath a Memorial High School team tent during a rainy track meet attended by schools from across North Texas. According to trial testimony, Carmelo Anthony, a student from a different school, sat beneath the Memorial School's tent shortly before the confrontation began. Several student athletes testified that they questioned why he was there and repeatedly asked him to leave. Okay, so the different schools had their own tent. They didn't know who this kid was. He came and sat down in the tent, and they're like, "What are you doing here? Get out." Now, you can argue whether or not that was the right thing to do or not, but when you realize that this Carmelo Anthony had a knife and in a few minutes was going to murder someone, they had some kind of sixth sense telling them that there was something up with this guy. Because why would you have a knife at any type of school event? Witnesses told jurors that Austin Metcalf eventually approached Carmelo Anthony and asked him to move. One student testified that Anthony was asked to leave roughly 15 times. Multiple witnesses recalled Anthony responding with statements such as, "Touch me, then you'll find out. And if you want me to move, you have to move me." And notice he's escalating. Several students testified that Anthony became increasingly aggressive as the exchange continued. One witness told jurors it appeared Anthony was provoking Austin Metcalf, while another testified it looked like Anthony was looking for a fight. Multiple witnesses, which is very unusual in a murder case, multiple witnesses said they did not believe Metcalf wanted to fight, with one recalling Metcalf saying, "I'm not going to fight you at a track meet." Witnesses also repeatedly referenced Carmelo Anthony keeping one hand inside his backpack during the exchange, which is where the knife was. Several students testified they believed Anthony was bluffing when he suggested he had something in the bag. See, he's escalating and threatening. The confrontation turned physical moments later. Now, keep in mind, he's arguing, he's getting confrontational, he has his hand in the bag, he's telling them he's got something big in the bag. The confrontation turned physical moments later. Witnesses gave differing accounts about exactly how Metcalf touched Anthony before the stabbing, with some describing a shove and others describing a grab. Testimony also varied on whether Metcalf used one hand or two. Okay? So some said that Anthony Metcalf, who would be murdered in moments, okay, some said that he shoved Anthony, others said he grabbed him. Testimony varied on whether Metcalf used one hand or two. Anthony then stabbed Metcalf in the chest, according to the testimony in the trial. Several students said they initially believed Anthony was bluffing. One witness testified that he did not realize Metcalf had been stabbed until he saw Anthony throw an object into the bleachers. Another recalled hearing Metcalf say, "Oh my God." Prosecutors argued that Anthony escalated a verbal disagreement into a deadly encounter by pulling a knife from his backpack and stabbing an unarmed teenager. No doubt. To support that argument, prosecutors called 21 witnesses, including students who witnessed the confrontation, investigators who processed the crime scene, and the medical examiner who performed Metcalf's autopsy. Several student witnesses testified that Anthony was the aggressor and that the stabbing did not appear to be an act of self-defense. No, he didn't take the knife out and say, "Hey, get back, get back." He took the knife out and stabbed him. One witness testified that no one attempted to gang up on Anthony and described the physical contact before the stabbing as minor pushing at most. Another witness testified that Anthony appeared to be looking for a fight. Jurors also heard testimony that Anthony told an officer after the stabbing, all right, this is Carmelo Anthony, he told this to police, "I'm not alleged, I did it. He put his hands on me, I told him not to." Well, hands on someone isn't beating them down or threatening them. The medical examiner's testimony was among the most difficult moments of the trial. Metcalf's family left the courtroom while autopsy photographs were shown to the jury. The defense argued that Anthony acted in self-defense after being confronted by a larger student and physically touched during the dispute. Touched? You're only allowed to use deadly force in a stand-your-ground moment if your life is in danger and you're unable to escape that danger. Throughout the trial, defense attorneys emphasized that Anthony was seated for much of the confrontation, while Metcalf and other students were standing nearby. Testimony indicated Metcalf outweighed Anthony by 50 to 60 pounds. Defense attorneys also highlighted inconsistencies among witnesses regarding where students were positioned, how many hands Metcalf used when touching Anthony, and who was standing nearby at the time. Anthony's track coach testified that athletes from different schools routinely mingle at track meets and said his team lacked enough volunteers to set up a tent that day. He acknowledged, however, that students should leave if asked to leave another team's tent. One of Anthony's friends testified that he had previously spent time under tents belonging to other schools without issue, but said he would leave if asked. Defense witnesses also pointed to testimony that another student under the tent knew Anthony and greeted him when he arrived. After the prosecution rested, defense attorneys moved for a directed verdict, which was denied. Okay, so that's it. I mean, this was what I would describe, this is a typical confrontation at a high school event. When I was in high school, I saw things like this happen all the time, sometimes at parties, sometimes on campus. I never saw a fight at a school event or a sporting event, because there was always a police presence at sporting events. I remember when I was in school. But it just seems like a typical little scuffle between high school boys. It happens all the time. Except one of them brought a deadly weapon to a school event. And it wasn't like he was scared and said, "Hey, I got this knife, get back," and left. He grabbed the knife and stabbed him to death and murdered him. So what I'd like to hear, you're welcome to call on either side of the issue, but those of you who believe there was a racial injustice here, without using the standard racist rhetoric that often you hear from callers like that, I would really like to hear you articulate where the racial injustice is in this case. so far as Carmelo Anthony's verdict and sentencing is concerned, because I just don't see it. If you're on hold, stand by. If you'd like to call in, please do. The number's toll free, 888-465-2631. 888-465-2631. We'll be right back. All right, if you're on hold, stand by. After the break, I am going to go to the phones. So here's, this is a woman who's in front of the courthouse. Okay, so we're in radio break now. So I'll start taking calls when we're back from the radio break, which will be in let's see here, 2 minutes. We'll be back in 2 minutes. So is this idiot saying that if a white high school student brought a deadly weapon, a knife, to a track meet, started arguing and got into a scuffle with some students and then stabbed them, that they would get away with it? This is not 1926 in Democrat Jim Crow Alabama. Okay? It's not 1926, it's 2026. About 90 seconds and we'll be back. I mean, come on. And what kind of rhetoric is that? This kind of speech from these people like her that are there. Jasmine Crockett weighed in, others on some of the nighttime shows last night. It is the incitement of violence. And I really have followed this case, and I watched the trial verdict come down. I've been reading the stories about it. There's no racial injustice here, unless maybe Carmelo Anthony, had some hang-ups and led to this. But maybe he was just maybe he's just a psycho who wanted to kill someone, or maybe he got worked up by people like this idiot who tells black people, young black men and women, that they're in danger all the time when they're not. I don't know. All I know is this. Carmelo Anthony murdered a kid, and he's going to prison for not long enough. 35 years, eligible for parole in 17 and a half. It's not long enough. It should be life. All right. We're 10 seconds away. We'll be back on the air in 10 seconds. Stand by. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Good morning, Brian. Doc from Texas.
Oh. Yes, Doc from Texas.
How are you this morning?
All right.
All right. Hey, look, I was calling about the trial in Texas yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's just tragic. A young man lost his life. Another young man is going to prison. For what? For stupidity.
No, for murder. No, for murder. For murder.
For stupidity on both of their parts. Both of their parts. And that's it. Stupidity on both of their parts. One man is dead. A young man is dead. The young man is going to prison. For what? For stupidity on both of their parts.
Well, what I'm trying to figure out, why did Carmelo Anthony bring a deadly weapon, a knife, to a school event?
He should have never brought it. And
That's
the other
right.
guy should have never messed with him. They should have just left both with their separate ways, because the problem we have in this country to where we teaching our young men.
Who's responsible for this murder? Who's responsible for this murder?
Carmelo Anthony. Because he did it.
Yeah,
we're
he did.
Teaching our young men, white men and black men. We're teaching them.
To what?
Teaching them.
To what?
We're teaching them, you got to be a man. Stand up for your rights. Stand up. No, teach them to walk away. Walk away.
Yeah. That's right.
We're not teaching them wrong way anymore.
And people that are in front of the courthouse that are calling this illegal lynching, I'm gonna tell you what, Doc, you're on the right side here. So take note. I may make a note of this. First time you've been right. That's exactly right.
And you know what, Brian?
when
both sides are wrong. That guy, I can't call his name.
Everybody, Austin Metcalf. Austin Metcalf.
Jake Lane.
Hold on a second. Doc. I want to tell you what. Hold on a second here. I got all my lines mixed up. Hold on a second. All right, are you back? Are you, okay, my phone's ringing off the hook. All right, you back with us, Doc?
Yeah.
Okay. No, I'm not cutting you off. You're making sense for the first time in all your calls. These people that are in front of the courthouse, like this lady I just played on the program, and she said this was illegal lynching. This isn't a courthouse; it's a slaughterhouse. There's no racial injustice here, and it sounds like you agree with that, right?
Right. What I'm saying is both people were wrong. The young man shouldn't have did what he did. The other young man, both should have just walked away. We in this country. Hold
on a second here. Hold on a second. Carmelo Anthony, you said he brought a knife, shouldn't have brought it, and he murdered someone. And is it not possible that he made them nervous? He obviously had a deadly weapon for a reason. He obviously gave off vibes that freaked people out. And I think were they not? Oh, hold on. Let me finish. Doc.
What vibe did he give off?
Well, whatever vibes within a few short minutes.
There was no vibe. It was two young men. It was two young men.
No.
Two young hot-headed
No. One came with a deadly weapon and murdered the other. So, why was he walking around with this knife?
It escalated. He should have had that knife. It escalated because two young men didn't know how.
Well, why do you think he brought the knife?
Because he brought. I don't know why he brought. And I heard it wasn't really a knife. I heard it was something to clean his cleats with.
It was something to what?
Clean his cleats. His track cleats.
The knife, which they've not shown us the knife, but it's been described as being between 3.5 and 5 inches. It's not
I heard it wasn't a knife. I heard it was something.
Well, you heard. Well, whoever you heard that from doesn't know what they're talking about. It was a knife.
Again, you're missing my point. One young man is dead. The other one is going to prison for what? Stupidity.
No, for murder. For murder.
Walked away. No,
for murder.
Walked away. Walked away.
Yeah. Well, you should. Well, you don't bring knives to school.
Can we both agree on this? Both men should have walked away.
No, because no. I'll tell you why. No, Carmelo Anthony is a dangerous person. We know because he murdered.
He was not a danger.
He murdered another child there. So
murdered another child.
Mm-hmm.
Another child murdered another child.
So
because it was
their fear of Carmelo Anthony was justified because he was a killer.
There was no fear. Was he fear because he's a black man? That's why you
No. I know you want to go. No,
you just said that.
Nope.
Yeah, you just said that.
I didn't say that. I didn't say that. Get off the phone. You're not going to tell me I said something like that. Get off the phone. You're not going to lie about me like that. People give off vibes. I mentioned this after the Parkland shooting, right? The shooter in the Parkland shooting. I stopped off at the Wawa and had an encounter with him before the shooting, and he was scary. I remember he was wearing pajama pants and he was ordering a sub at Wawa in Parkland, and he was creepy. And if you remember, one of the girls from the school ran into the shooter when she was escaping, and she says, "Oh, I would have thought this was you." Remember, they all knew it was him before they knew it was him. Sometimes people give off vibes, and Anthony Metcalf and the kids in that tent were getting vibes, obviously, because Carmelo Anthony is a murderer. All right, you're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
The shooter when she was escaping.
You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from? All right, you there?
Sometimes people give off.
I can hear myself.
Yes, hi.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I had the radio on. I was
That's okay.
listening to you on the radio.
That's okay. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
I'm Gary. I'm calling from Green Acres, Florida.
All right. Green Acres. What's up?
I'm sorry?
What's up? You called me. What's on your mind?
I've been listening to you, and for the most part, I agree with you 100%. We have a little bit of difference in opinion about the death penalty. Myself, if someone commits murder, and I don't care what their age is, I think they deserve to be eliminated.
Well, I'm pro-life, and that includes if I were on a jury, I wouldn't be able to send somebody to the execution chamber. I just wouldn't do it. It would violate my pro-life beliefs. But that's
Yeah, I can understand that. I can definitely.
But that's that's not really the discussion here. I mean, what I'm hearing from people on television is that black people, I guess, should be able to murder people, and if they get arrested, tried, and convicted for murdering somebody who's white, it's a racial injustice. That's kind of what I've been hearing since this verdict came down yesterday.
Yeah. Yes. I've been listening and hearing the exact same thing, and that's not the circumstances. That's not what happened here. And we have good cops, we have bad cops. There could be a situation where it's a bad cop and he does something racial.
Well, this isn't a cop. I mean, this was a typical thing with high school boys. High school boys sometimes get into fights and wrestle, and things happen. Okay, but they usually don't have.
I've been there myself.
Exactly, we all have. And but I went to school. I grew up here in Florida, and if you grow up in Florida and you're a boy, you have knives because you fish or whatever. But we never brought them to school because a knife at the school or any school event was automatic expulsion, not suspension, expulsion. You were out. And bringing a weapon. Why would a kid bring a deadly weapon to a track meet? He was looking for trouble, I would say.
My brother-in-law, back when he was in high school, his family is German, and they were doing something in the class about history and so forth, and he brought oh God, what's the knife on the end of a rifle?
A bayonet. A bayonet.
He brought a German bayonet into the class to show the class, and the teacher took it from him and gave it to him later.
Oh my goodness! Well, that was another era.
He didn't get in trouble or anything.
Wow.
He didn't get in trouble or anything.
Oh man, at my school, you'd be out. You'd be expelled.
Really?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, I can understand that if it was something just for learning or seeing or whatever, it'd be, what he had was like a historical thing, weapon. Yes, no doubt about that. But
he didn't stab anybody with it, though. He didn't stab anyone with the bayonet, did he?
Oh no.
Yeah.
Not even.
Well, listen, I got to run, but call again sometime. You're a very good caller. All right, take care. I'm going to take one more call before the break, even though we're running late. I'm going to take one more call, then we'll break. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Yeah, hi. Good morning, Brian. This is Danielle calling from Michigan.
Hey, what's up?
And good morning. I agree 100% with you. Should have been a life sentence.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing I want to say real quick, and I wasn't able to listen to all of Doc's call because I called you and I wasn't able to hear.
Yeah, well, I think you probably got lucky that you didn't hear the whole call.
He made me very upset, and I hope he's listening right now, because let me just tell you something. Why are people trying to make this out to be an accident or a mistake or a bad decision? What are you talking about? This is murder. He killed a young man.
That's right.
I mean, I'm not understanding.
Well, I'll tell you what's going on. A lot of them, there's a few things going on. What I saw, like this one woman I played, and there was a guy there I'll play later. there's some wannabe race pimps that are auditioning to be, the next race pimp, right? You know what I mean? Jesse Jackson's gone. Sharpton's kind of retired. Black Lives Matter's faded away. So there's some vocal people, community activist types that are eyeing to, get a part of that crowdfunding money, right? And try to get on that train. The Democrats are beginning to exploit this because they're viewing it as a way to bring blacks back to the Democrat Party. I mean, that's why this is becoming an issue today.
Brian, I'm telling you, when was it Jasmine or whoever?
Jasmine Crockett.
About, well, what kind of weapon was it anyway?
A deadly weapon.
It wasn't. I mean, I am telling you something. I am so livid after. I haven't been following this as closely as you, but I know what's going on. And let me tell you, those women outside that said, the one woman that said, "Well, what am I supposed to do? I've got 5 kids." Let me tell you what you're supposed to do, lady. First of all, pick a good man.
Yes.
Someone that's going to stay and raise the children.
Yes.
And then get back to God.
Yes.
That's what you're going to do.
Yeah.
Make a better choice and then sit your young men down and speak to them about, listen, Brian, back in the day, I can remember being on the bus. Oh, wait a minute. What are you doing on this side of the bus? Hey, people would say, go on over and sit in your own seat or at the lunch table. What are you doing at this lunch? People are always, it doesn't matter if they were questioning, like, well, what are you doing over here? You got to leave. I mean, and Brian, listen, even if there was a push or a shove or whatever happened, you don't kill somebody.
Well, and the thing with I gotta break because I'm really late, but I'll just say this before we go. Sure. If Carmelo Anthony would have taken the knife out and said, "Hey, get back," and then left, while he still would have been in trouble, maybe even arrested, maybe suspended or expelled, it'd be a whole different discussion, but we never would have heard of him. As a gun owner, I have taken many, many gun courses over the years, concealed weapon courses, gunfight courses, how to defend yourself in your home, out in public with your gun. I'm a very responsible gun owner. And I have taken many courses from different people all over South Florida over the years. The first thing they tell you to do, if you are a gun owner and you feel threatened, what is the first thing you're supposed to do? What do you think?
Leave.
That's right. Try to leave. That's right. Leave. If you can't, leave. You don't take the gun out and shoot him like Indiana Jones and the guy with the whip, right? And in a stand your ground situation, which this was not, by the way, but in a stand your ground situation, it's only a so-called good shoot if your life was threatened, which it wasn't in Anthony's case, and you were unable to escape. They were in a tent, so there's no walls, and he wasn't surrounded. He could have left, right? And he didn't. So no, it's a cold-blooded murder, and I would say that he had the knife because he was looking for trouble.
He should have got life in prison, is all I've got to say.
Doubt.
And to Doc, I'm telling you, I'm horrified by listening to what I did here for the first part of Doc's call.
Yep.
I mean, there's no justification. I mean, trying to justify, he just made a mistake. I made a mistake.
Both of them made a mistake. Give me a break. Absolutely. All right, take care. Appreciate the call.
Yeah, right.
We're very late. We'll take our break and be right back. Okay, we are in break right now. But while we're in break, I want to tell you guys about Mike Lindell and MyPillow. The MyPillow bathrobes are in, okay? And these are perfect Father's Day gifts. They have been out of the MyPillow bathrobes for quite some time. And they are back in stock, all sizes, all colors. And with our promo code KANE at checkout, KANE, they are $100 off. Normally $179.98. Just $79.98 with our promo code KANE. By the way, they have the women's sizes and colors in too, not just the men. And it's free shipping on orders that are $100 or more. So if you get a his and hers, it's free shipping. But there's not a MAGA dad out there that would not love a MyPillow bathrobe for Father's Day. I have one already, okay? And my wife has one, and we love them. And they are such high quality, like everything Mike Lindell makes. So go to MyPillow.com. There is time to do your Father's Day shopping. You can use our promo code KANE at checkout, KANE, on all the specials at MyPillow.com. Just type in Kane, Kane, at checkout at mypillow.com. You can also order by phone toll-free, 800-716-4879. 800-716-4879. All right, we'll take a quick break and be right back.
What if a world-famous wine empire was hiding a deadly secret? From author Malenko Gabrillo comes an international thriller where luxury, power, and organized crime collide in a battle that spans the continents. In Blood and Wine. Blood and Wine. Meet the Lombardi family. They've spent generations building a global empire of Michelin-starred restaurants and world-renowned wines. But when their daughter suddenly vanishes, they uncover a criminal network operating in the shadows of the luxury industry. As shocking secrets emerge and the stakes rise higher than ever imagined, the family finds itself caught in a dangerous struggle involving betrayal, power, and a ruthless cartel determined to take everything they've built from New York to Europe and beyond. Blood and Wine combines cinematic action, unforgettable characters, and non-stop suspense in a story about family, legacy, and the price of survival. Order your copy of Blood and Wine from author Malenko Gabrillo online at iTheBook.com. That's iTheBook.com.
All right, if you're on hold, stand by. If you'd like to call in, the number is toll-free. It's pinned in the live chat, 888-465-2631, 888-465-2631. It's a toll-free call. We'll be back in just over a minute. We're still in radio break. So if you're on hold, hang in there. And also, guys, if you're new, welcome to the channel. Make sure you subscribe. And if you all that are watching could like the video, that would help me out a lot. When you like the video, you get the video recommended to people who have not yet found the channel. All right, so that helps out a lot. So please like the video, and we'll be back in 1 minute, less than a minute. We'll be back. Oh man, I tell you, the reason I haven't talked about this case is up until the verdict is because it was so clear cut. And then all of a sudden he's found guilty and they're making it a racial case. There's no racial injustice whatsoever in this case. Zero. So far as the trial and the verdict goes, right? And I know they think, well, there were no black jurors. A jury of your peers, it was not an all-white jury. There were white people, Hispanic and Asian. A jury of your peers does not mean a jury of people of your skin color, although the left seem to think that's the way it works. All right, hang in there. Less than 10 seconds. Welcome back, everyone. My name is Brian Craig. This is the Steve Kane Show, Florida's longest running radio show. Okay, if you're on hold, hang in there. If you'd like to call in, you're certainly welcome to on this Carmelo Anthony verdict. And the reason this is the first time you've heard us cover it is because it was so clear cut. There was no controversy so far as the trial and the verdict. The controversy in that he brought a knife and killed the kid, I get that, but no racial injustice, multiple witnesses, unless Carmelo Anthony himself didn't like white people and brought the knife for some reason related to that. But they're saying, well, there were no black people on the jury. It was not, first of all, it was not an all-white jury. There were white people, Asian people, and Hispanics on the jury. A jury of your peers does not mean a jury of people of your skin color. Okay? Yeah. I mean, I don't know where people get that. So there was no racial injustice with the jury. If there was an injustice, I would say it was Carmelo Anthony's own family. And what I mean by that is, he had a public defender. They had raised over $500,000 in crowdfunding. Why did they not hire a top expert criminal defense attorney? A Benjamin Crump type. Where did all the money go? Some say they bought a house with it. Carmelo Anthony's family. Some say that's not true. I don't know, but I know around $600,000 was raised, and I don't understand why a family who raised $600,000 would allow their child who was facing life, maybe even the death penalty, right, in a murder trial, why they would allow them to be defended by a public defender. Can you imagine? No. I mean, and I'm not, sometimes you have no choice but to use a public defender. But if you think about it as parents out there, guilty or not, if you had the means to hire a private attorney in a murder trial for your child, guilty or not, and over $600,000 had been raised in a crowdfunding campaign, would you allow them to be represented by a public defender? Of course you wouldn't. So where'd the money go? So if there was any injustice, I would say it would be from Carmelo Anthony's family. And another thing, this is, even if they didn't have the money, right? Even if they didn't raise $600,000, which they did, but even if they didn't, this was a very high profile case. Lawyers love television trials. And there are private defense attorneys who are top tier who would have represented Carmelo Anthony pro bono, or maybe get paid later through whatever deals the family makes with books or something and appearances. It's a very common thing. I know this, that if my child were on trial for their life, guilty or not, I would sell everything I own, beg, borrowed, steal, for a top tier private attorney. Wouldn't you? Okay. So this segment's going to be very short. We're going to take our break on time, so we'll be on time for the rest of the show. Graham Plattner won with 75% last night. So 75% of Democrats in Maine believe that a Nazi is the best representation for them. I'm going to get into that and much more. So you're welcome to continue to call in about Carmelo Anthony. I've been talking about it for an hour. We've had some calls on it. If you're on hold and you want to talk about that, you're certainly welcome to. The number is toll-free, 888-465-2631. We'll take a quick break and be right back. All right, we're clear. Yeah, I got to take this. If I don't take this break on time, we'll have a traffic jam of breaks for the rest of the show. So we got to take this break on time. So those of you on hold, stand by. I'll go to the calls after the break, and then we'll be on time for the rest of the show. All right? That's just how it works. Sometimes you got to do these things. Let's see. Okay. And they'll tell me in a minute what time we're going to be back. It's my fault because I took the bottom of the hour break way late because we had, I was having a conversation with these callers, and some of them have been holding for a long time, and I didn't want them to hold, and it's an important issue. It's not often that there's an issue like this that I say to myself, listen, this has to be put in perspective. And at the top of the hour, I went over the details according to all the eyewitnesses of what happened. That is so unusual in a murder case. There usually are not witnesses in a murder case because the witnesses are murdered. They're the victim or one of the victims, right? Because murderers typically kill the witnesses. Right? Even if there's video, unless there's some surveillance camera from a venue, people start filming after the initial spark happened. But we had multiple eyewitness testimony, and it was all pretty consistent as to what happened. So it's very unusual to have not just a witness, but so many witnesses at every stage that led up to the murder. So that's another reason why there is not any reasonable debate as to what happened, because there's so many eyewitnesses to every step of what happened, and that's just the way it is. If you're on hold, hang in there because I'm going to go to the calls. Somebody had left me a message on YouTube yesterday about my wife. I haven't shown this in a while. This is one of the Trump watches that you hear. My wife got me this for Christmas, and I absolutely love this watch. It's a great watch. Oh, I got to set the time properly. Hold on a second here. There we go. And it's a great watch. I don't even wear. I have an Apple Watch. I haven't worn it since I got this for Christmas. And they're pretty awesome. Hold on, when we're going to be back? Okay, less than a minute. We'll be back. So if you're on hold, hang in there. But the Trump watches, they come in blue and gold, or is it black? I don't know, and red. But you want to get MAGA red, don't you, for your Trump watch? And if you look, look at this. Okay, so on the front, you got the president's signature and everything. That's cool. And then on the back, you've got the fight, fight, fight. Okay? See the fight, fight, fight on the back, it's super cool. And it's a conversation piece. People, when I'm wearing this watch all the time, and they'll say, "Is that one of those Trump watches?" People know it. Remember what President Trump says in the commercial? People will know what it is and what it represents. It's amazing to me how many people say, "Hey, is that one of those Trump watches?" Yeah, it is. All right, hang in there. All right, we're back and on schedule, and let's go back to the phones. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from? You're on the air. Once, twice. All right. You missed your chance. All right, let's go. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Yeah, this is Richie. Good morning to you.
Hey, Richie.
I want to bring something up about Plattner, if it's okay with you.
Yeah, I'm going to get to. That's my next. Hold on, my answer. These phones are just ringing off the hook. Yeah, all right, go ahead.
An observation that I had last night, and I realized just how manipulative the Democratic Party is, and how people are just swayed by visuals and narratives. They don't look at facts, and they just. First of all, his acceptance speech, which I noticed, he looked like a ruffian, like he had a bad night out at a bar and hadn't gone to bed in about 40 hours.
Mm-hmm.
That's what his physical appearance. So he's got to look like a rough, tough man, right?
Well, what they're trying, you know what they're doing with him?
Image.
Well, it's casting. It's a costume. Do you remember the movie with George Clooney called A Perfect Storm about the fisherman that died in the hurricane? They're trying to make him look.
I didn't see that.
Oh, it's a very good movie. I'm not a fan of George Clooney, but A Perfect Storm is a pretty good movie. I haven't seen it. Mark Wahlberg's in it. They're trying to make him look like an oyster farmer. And like he just came off the oyster farm. I don't know what they do. You know what I mean? So he always has to look like he came off the oyster farm and he didn't have time to bathe or brush his hair or trim his beard or put on a suit.
Like
yeah,
like he's had a bad.
It's a costume. It's a costume.
That's number one. Then look at what was in back of him at his acceptance speech last night. He's been knocked for abusing women. So what do? They take all these old ladies. There wasn't one with black hair. They all had gray hair, and they all in back of them a photo shoot. It's so ridiculous and it's so obvious to me. I said to myself, and by the way, a lot of them look like they might have been LGBT.
Oh, really? Since they were so old, I was wondering if they were the wives or children of Nazis, since they're behind a Nazi.
Yes. Well, if you look at one of them, she had a haircut just like a man. And she looked a little butchy to me. I mean, not for nothing, but that's just an observation. But this is such a ploy by these people. Just like, and I'm going over to what you were talking about with this racial garbage. Jasmine Crockett, I'm sure you were home yesterday. Did you see the immigration hearing they had? She attacked all the Republicans. She was on the end. She said there isn't notice, and she made it blatant. And this was before this verdict. I think she knew he was going to become guilty, and I knew CNN would have her on. She looked and she said, "Look at the other side of this room. They're all old white men. They have no."
Well, Jasmine Crockett. Remember, she's out of Congress in 6 months. Her district is gone, redistricted out of existence. So she was doing a lot of talking about this yesterday. She's auditioning for a career post-Congress as a race pimpette on one of the talk shows.
Well, Sharpton's going to be retiring because he's old, so she'll take over for him.
Yeah.
She'll be on all of the shows.
That's what she's doing.
She'll be holding Benjamin Clark's hand, the pimp lawyer. Not for nothing. The whole thing is just one big.
She could be auditioning for. She's auditioning either for CNN, MS Now or The View. However, with this new merger, it was reported yesterday that Barry Weiss is going to take over managing CNN as well as CBS. So I don't think Jasmine's going to be welcome there.
No, but Brian, not for nothing. This whole thing, you were right at the very beginning. You know what they're trying to do last night? First of all, this was a murder, and it was a deadly weapon. No matter what anyone would say, 3.5-inch knife. It doesn't matter. It killed it.
Yeah.
And he had a choice to walk away. He never walked away. It got escalated, and he did the wrong thing. He killed somebody. He belongs to go away. And the reason why you had all these race people out there, you had the Black Panthers out there too, by the way, in the crowd. You hit it right on the head. This is June, folks. We're starting to look at the primaries already. They want the MAGA to look like all racist.
Correct.
And they want to try to draw the black people back in to their camps.
Yes.
They're all racist.
Yeah.
This is what they want to race for.
And you know what,
They
Richie?
want a
They might have some success with it.
Well, they want a Black Lives Matter thing where they're marching through the streets. I was listening after the verdict. No justice, no peace.
Yeah.
What the hell are you talking about?
You know,
What
in
are you
some of
talking
these,
about?
in some of these other cases, like I'll give you an example. Let's go to the two most controversial in the last few years: George Floyd and Trayvon Martin. Both of those cases, there were conflicts that were open for debate. Now, those of you that remember the days of Trayvon Martin, I believed that George Zimmerman should have gone to prison. Okay, I covered that quite a bit back then, and it was very controversial. And because I'm a gun owner, you don't do what he did, but there were no witnesses. There were no witnesses and very little evidence, and he was also overcharged, George Zimmerman. But also the George Floyd incident, okay? Did the cop kill him? Well, we later found out no. It's because he had so many drugs in his system and his health, and he was dead for a while there, and the cop was just trying not to cause a riot, pretending he was still alive. He knew what was going on. The paramedics knew that he was dead. But there were discussions. Okay, what happened here? What happened there? Why did he have his knee on his back, like on his neck? There were things that with this case, it's clear cut. There's no room for any reasonable person to disagree.
No, Brian, I can testify on radio for the guy who's listened to you from the time you were on my bus. Okay.
Yep.
All the way through, okay, that all these cases you brought up, Brian was on the other side. He was not.
Sometimes.
So if anyone calls up and says Brian is a racist, they're lying. You've been on the side of what do you call it? First of all, you on the side with Brown, all of them. In other words, in the beginning.
Well, when George Floyd happened, and this is probably on my YouTube channel because I think this was on YouTube. Yeah. The day after George Floyd, when all the riots started, I went on the air and I said, we're not going to talk about it because we don't have enough information. Right. This was like the next day. We don't have enough information. Now they're burning down the city and there's violence going on. But at that moment, we didn't know what happened. And it was such a hot issue where people were getting violent. I said, we're not going to talk about this till we have more information. And when we did, we discussed it. Well,
I'm going to say it the way I see it, and I'm an older person, and I've lived through Jim Crow. I've gone through the South. I'm from New York. I didn't see it in New York City, but I had relatives that lived in Greensboro, North Carolina. I actually went and saw where that Woolworths, where they actually arrested the people around the lunch counter in Greensboro, North Carolina. My aunt and uncle lived there, and I got to tell you something. Through all of this, there are a lot of educated people in this country that realize that this country is no longer back in 1950 and 60. And there are people in this country, and I'm going to label it on the black community. And there shouldn't be a black community. It should be an American community. I'm getting that. You asked about the jury pool of your peers. What is this black community? We're integrated now. You can live where the hell you want. If I wanted to move into the black community, I could move into the black community. They're not going to throw me out. So the bottom line is, this is a country that had a bad past, but we've made up for it. And this crap of throwing it in our cup of soup every day, that this is a racist country. The whites are all crackers.
In fact, if this country was the country that these race wannabe pimps in front of the courthouse were saying it was yesterday, the cops would have come in and run them off and arrested them, like the Democrats used to do during Jim Crow, right? With the dogs and the fire hoses. Give me a break.
We're all treated equally. Clarence Thomas is a Supreme Court justice, for God's sake. The congressman from I believe Texas got up yesterday and said he's where he is because of Martin Luther King. There's nothing holding anyone back. And by the way, I'm going to say this. When I drove a bus in Broward County, Florida, and I used to go into Broward Community College with my bus, guess what? Probably I would fill a bus every day going in and going out. You know, the predominantly black students. So where is this Jim Crow crap? I'm talking about
it's another
overwhelming amount of
listen, there's you know, I one thing I did notice though, this case is so clear cut. There was no Benjamin Crump there. There were a bunch of third-rate local wannabes, right, that were at the courthouse. And the reason that you didn't, you know, the reason you didn't see the Benjamin Crump types, right? He was kind of like the new Johnny Cochran, is because the Carmelo Anthony case is so clear cut. He's so guilty. They can't make a race issue out of it to make money. So that's why you don't have any of the big shot lawyers down there. You know, when there's a high profile case like this, people like Benjamin Crump, big time lawyers like that, they contact the family and offer to represent at no charge just so they get the coverage, right? You know, and none of them did it because it was 100% guilty, murder, 100%.
Well, here's a question. Here's a question I got to ask you, and nobody's answered it. That was a high school track meet. He was from another school. In track, there are a lot of black athletes.
Yes.
And I'm sure that wasn't an all-white school. Under that tent, out of those 15 witnesses, how many of those students were black students?
Well, we don't know because they're not telling us.
They won't say it. They try to keep it. They won't keep it because I got to tell you
what does that tell you?
Outside, they were mingling. They were mingling with each other, and they were friends with each other.
We don't know. They have not given us the racial breakdown of the witnesses, which tells me that at least some of them, if not a lot of them, were black. All right, I got to run, Richie. Take care. If you're on hold, stand by. Yesterday, I went over to Lighthouse Medical. And I ran into some listeners at Lighthouse Medical when I was over there. I ran into one in the parking lot. I ran into another listener inside. And then there was another listener who was getting treated. And they were over there for their neuropathy. Lighthouse Medical Center in Pompano, they do amazing work. And I have seen so many miraculous things out of Lighthouse Medical. People that were suffering from neuropathy, they couldn't get out of their house. Many of them couldn't get out of their bed, and they've got a life again. They're taking vacations. Some of them go on our MAGA cruises. They're going out to dinner. They're going to the mall. They're doing things. They're playing pickleball or even golf, things they couldn't do before because they were suffering from neuropathy. Call Lighthouse Medical Center. The work they do is miraculous. I've seen the incredible success they have with so many people in this audience. Here's the number. When you call, make sure you mention you heard about them on the program so you can take advantage of that no-charge consultation. 754-222-6642. 754-222-6642. That's 754-222-6642. And online, lighthousemedicalcenter.com. All right, we're going to take our break for the top of the hour. I'm going to move on to some other issues in the news because there are some. But you're welcome to call in about the Carmelo Anthony case throughout the day. All right, the number's toll-free, 888-465-2631. We'll take our break for the top of the hour and be right back. All right, guys, hang in there. I'm going to take a quick break and be back with you.
Ever sit down at a restaurant, open the menu, helps you discover what's worth ordering comes in. Unlike other apps that focus on entire restaurants, Valora focuses on the dish. Want to know if the spicy tuna roll is amazing? Curious about the best Thai in town? Valora helps you find out before you order. You can search by dish, cuisine, or restaurant. Discover what's trending near you. Explore menu items and see photos, flavor details, spice levels, portion sizes, and much, much more. You can save your favorite dishes, build a personal food list, and keep track of every great meal you've discovered. Plus, Valora is privacy first. There are no ads and no tracking. Stop guessing, stop hoping, and start knowing what's worth ordering. Download Valora today. It's free. Valora. What's worth ordering?
All right, we're going to be back in less than 90 seconds. Okay, hold on. I got to put my phone on Do Not Disturb. Sometimes, I put my phone on Do Not Disturb when I'm on the air, and then sometimes I'll forget about it, and my phone will be in Do Not Disturb for like a week. It makes life a lot more peaceful, but I miss a lot of calls and texts that way. All right, we'll be back in about 1 minute. Oh man, I tell you, it's so sad. It really is, isn't it? It is really, really sad. There's a couple more things on Carmelo Anthony I'm going to talk about, and then I'm going to move on to some other things. Okay, I've got 40 seconds. Hold on, hold on. Okay, hold on. This is insane. I'm going to get to this thing with Candace Owens first, though. Hold on. All right, the 7 o'clock hour has begun. Welcome back. If you're on hold, stand by. I do have one more thing on Carmelo Anthony that I'm going to get to in a minute, and I'm going to move on to some other things. But you're welcome to call in about that case throughout the program. But I wanted to share something that I just stumbled across. Now, Candace Owens just came back from a tour of Russia, and she went on the air yesterday. And it's been a long time since I've heard somebody do this when they return from Russia. Listen, this is Candace Owens yesterday, just returning from Mother Russia. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Mm. Really? Oh man. Okay. This is crazy town coming out of her mouth. We're on decline. They're on top of the world. They haven't had communism in 30 years. They haven't had a fair election and a new president since, like, how long has Putin been leader in one way, shape, form, of another? Right? He was the leader after Yeltsin. So what, like 2000? Clinton was president when Putin first came to power. So how many years has Putin been? It's a dictatorship. Now, I'm not one of these big Russia hater guys these days. I got other things I got to focus on. But what she's doing, when I was in high school, Ronald Reagan was president. So the Soviet Union was still around. And the Cold War was pretty hot because, Ronald Reagan was trying to bring down the Soviet Union, which he did. But, so that when I was in high school, I worked on the high school newspaper. I was a reporter on the high school newspaper. and it was called The Echo was the name of the newspaper. And it was it was a real nursepaper. We had a teacher. He's passed away. He's very good. He was a very good teacher. His name was Mr. Ogle, and Mr. Ogle died many years ago. And I got a call from a newspaper. They were writing a story on Mr. Ogle, and they were tracking down. He had taught at the school since I was there in the 80s, but he had taught at this. It was Stranahan High School. He had taught at the school in Fort Lauderdale since like the 50s or 60s. And he taught there after I graduated. And somehow they were tracking down people that had been on the school newspaper that worked in media. So they found me, and I don't know. I was surprised. I was really shocked because it had been so long since I was in high school. And they interviewed me. It might have been there. I can't remember what paper it was. But it was a real newspaper that we had at the school. And we tried to do real news stories. And I remember this one story I had one year is I interviewed teachers who took exciting and unusual vacations over the summer. And it was I found a conflict, which I was not expecting to do. Okay. There was one teacher who went to Moscow, right? And I interviewed him, and he went to Moscow, and he was telling me, like Candace Owens, how beautiful it was. Now, keep in mind, Ronald Reagan was president, and the Cold War was hardcore going on, right? He was talking about these great apartments. They took him on a whole tour, and the great apartments, and like her, the grocery stores, and everything else. And then there was another teacher who was one of the PE coaches. And if I may be wrong, but I think it was Coach Baird, any of you old Stranahan High School alumni. And Coach Baird had gone to Europe, and he went to Berlin, and of course, West Berlin. There was still East and West Berlin. And he took a picture in front of the Berlin Wall. And there were 3 or 4 teachers I interviewed. The other 2, I don't remember. It was boring compared to these 2. So the one teacher went to Moscow and was telling me how great it was. And when I went to interview Coach Baird, he gave me a picture of him in front of the Berlin Wall, which was the front page story of that edition of the school newspaper. And the picture of him in front of the Berlin Wall was the picture underneath my byline. And, and he was telling me all about the Berlin Wall and communism and all this stuff. And then he asked me, what are some of the other teachers? And I told him about this guy. And he told me, he said, that's such a crock. He said he goes on some commie tour. See, this Coach Baird was a Republican. I didn't know it at the time. I was in like 9th or 10th grade. I didn't know, maybe 10th grade. But I know he was probably voted for Reagan, Coach Baird. He's like, the commies took him on a tour of what they wanted him to see. Of course, everything looked beautiful. They wouldn't let me put that in the paper, the conflict between the teachers, unfortunately. But, I remember that like it was yesterday, now that I talk about it. And I had forgotten about it until I saw this clip with Candace Owens. Candace Owens is an idiot, okay? They took her on a propaganda tour. Remember, I played that clip on Friday of her with Rick Sanchez, who lives in Moscow now. I couldn't believe it, from WSVN Channel 7. Putin put her on a propaganda tour, showing her how great it is in Russia, so she'd come back here and tell us. She's a useful idiot. Candace Owens, she's destroyed herself in reputation in this country. But she came up through Charlie Kirk and Turning Point for a couple of reasons, okay? She was discovered by a couple of people on a live streaming app that I used to be on that no longer exists. It was on Twitter. It was called Periscope. And she was very liberal. And there were some conservatives on Periscope. Mike Cernovich was one of them. And they discovered Candace Owens, and somehow she ended up at Turning Point. And she came along at a time when, if you were black and MAGA, you were sought after in media. And she's very charismatic, or at least she used to be, not so much anymore. But at the time, she was very charismatic, good looking, black, right? She could stand her ground and make her case and make her argument. She was very good. She came around at the right time. And, but I realize now she's an idiot. She's a stupid, stupid person. A stupid person. Russia is and always has been a third world country, and it still is today. I had a friend who years ago, he went over there and he had a NASA connection. And so, I know people that have connections. I just don't brag about them all the time, But he had a NASA connection, which I don't want to tell you about. But he was able to get a tour from a cosmonaut in Moscow, where he went to their space museum and all the sites. And when he came back, he told me this. He's like, because he's a MAGA guy. This was long ago, before MAGA. But, he was conservative Republican even back then. And he's like, this guy, he said, I wanted to see their space museum and everything and the rockets, and it was interesting and all. But, he's over here telling me how great it is in Russia. Give me a break, He took me where they wanted me to see. And Candace Owens is just stupid. She actually thinks that it's a free country and that we're the one in decline. Give me a break. In fact, the opposite is true. Russia is in major decline right now. Putin has made terrible, terrible mistakes, and there's a major embargo going on that's been going on during this whole Ukraine war. And people are struggling, and they're being propped up by China. But the idea, and they just lost their connection to a major ally, Iran. The idea that it's, rainbows and gumdrop dreams, or whatever that saying goes, in Moscow and Russia's this utopia, doesn't she sound like these idiots during the Cold War? Like that teacher from my high school that was telling me how great the apartments were and everything in Russia. And, one thing about stupid people like her, they don't realize they're stupid, like AOC, right? They think they're brilliant. And she makes a fool out of herself every single day. A useful idiot. And some people may say she's getting paid by Russia. I don't, maybe, but I wouldn't be surprised if she's not. She's so stupid, as you hear her talk this way, that, why pay her? She's dumb. She'll come over here and say all the stupid things they want her to say. All right, now I'm going to take the first break of the second hour. When we come back, there's a lot more to cover. Our number is 888-465-2631. We're in hurricane season. We've been in hurricane season for a week and a half now. And if you've got a wet spot on your ceiling, you've got a leak in your roof. And remember, the hurricane winds, the tropical storm force winds, are always looking for an entryway into your home. And that leak in your roof, you have a loose shingle, a loose tile, that's an entryway. You want to call Tom Laporta over at Laporta Roofing. He covers both the east and west coast of Florida and everywhere in between. And he's a good MAGA guy. He'll never sell you a roof you do not need. If you need a simple repair, he'll do it. And one of the super cool things about Tom Laporta at Laporta Roofing is he's not just a roofer, he's a contractor. And under Florida law, that allows him to deal directly with your insurance company, whether it's residential or commercial, on the cost of the repair or the replacement of your roof, which not only speeds things up a lot of times when you call your insurance company, they don't want to pay you, right? They're the insurance company. So you have to hire a public adjuster. And that takes time. And then you got to give 20% to the adjuster. So whatever the roof replacement or repair is, you've got to come up with 20% of that on your own. If you with Tom Laporta dealing directly with your insurance company on the cost of the replacement or repair of your roof, you may even be able to, if your insurance company is difficult, you may not have to hire that adjuster. Some people hire attorneys, and that gets really expensive. Call Tom Laporta right now. Again, this number rings directly to his cell phone, so you could call or text 954-604-4602. 954-604-4602. And online, laportaroofing.com. All right, we'll take a quick break and be right back. If you're on hold, guys, hang in there, okay? I'm going to take a quick break, and we'll come back. If you'd like to call in, The number is toll free, and it's pinned in the live chat. 888-465-2631. We'll be right back.
Some of the most meaningful gifts don't come from big companies. They come from family. At Selena's Studio Art on Etsy, every design begins the same way. With a mother, a pencil, and a lifetime of imagination. For years, she created hand-drawn characters for children's books. Funny, playful, and full of heart. Her work was recognized around the world, featured in magazines, and loved by generations of children. Now those same drawings are coming to life in a whole new way. From t-shirts and hoodies to mugs, coloring books, puzzles, posters, even home decor. Each piece at Selena's Studio Art on Etsy carries the warmth of a real story and the care of a real family. Every item is made with premium materials, carefully produced and designed to bring lasting joy. Whether it's a gift for someone you love or something special just for you, Selena's Studio Art on Etsy has it. It's a legacy. Discover unique handcrafted designs that make people smile. Only at selenastudioart.etsy.com. That's selenastudioart.etsy.com. Are you feeling emotionally drained, stuck, or disconnected from yourself? EnlightMeCenter.com was created for the person who is ready to heal, reset, and reconnect with their purpose. At EnlightMeCenter.com, explore spiritual wellness services, emotional healing tools, guided resets, transformational courses, as well as inspirational merch designed to support your journey. Visit EnlightMeCenter.com to start your healing journey and claim your free 5-minute emotional reset. EnlightMeCenter.com.
All right, we'll be back shortly, guys. If you're on hold, hang in there. We'll be back in about 90 seconds, okay? Please make sure you like the video if you are new, subscribe, and when you guys like the video, that's what gets the program, the video, recommended to people that have not yet found my channel. So if you guys could like the video, that helps a lot. You're welcome to call in about anything I brought up so far, okay, at 888-465-2631. 888-465-2631. It's a toll-free call no matter where you are calling from. And, you know, this thing I was talking about with this idiot Candace Owens in Russia, you know, one thing when you get older, you know, as you age, a lot of people don't like aging. You know, I don't mind it because you know what you get with age? Wisdom, perspective, life experience. And I remember when I was young and I was on the air, I started on the air when I was like 19, 20. And these guys that were older, they were younger than I am now or my age. And they just were so like, who do you think you are, kid? And I couldn't understand it. You know, what do you mean? And they say, how could you don't even know what you're talking about. And you don't think you do when you're young, but you get perspective. And listening to her talk about Russia, the way she's talking about Russia, she looks like the biggest moron you could possibly be saying stupid things like that. Really. And she's too much of a narcissist and stupid person. I mean, she's really AOC dumb. She's just well-spoken, a little charismatic, but she's AOC dumb, isn't she? Okay. We're back. It's the Steve Kane Show. My name is Brian Craig. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Yes, Ashley Babbitt.
Okay. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hey, it's Jason. How you doing, Brian? I'm calling from Oklahoma.
Jason in Oklahoma. What say you, Jason from Oklahoma?
Hey, Brian, I love your show, man.
Yes,
your
here
show
we go.
helps me. Your show helps me with constipation and diarrhea when I'm on the toilet.
Well, that's good. You know, I am on in the mornings, and that's a time that a lot of people are in the bathroom. So I'm glad I could help you.
Yeah, everybody watches your show, toilet, diarrhea, feces.
No, I heard that the first time. Do you have any? You thought you'd be hung up on now, so you didn't think of another line?
Feces, urine, feces.
There we go. Yeah, he just keeps saying the same thing over and over again. Oh, man. Well, you know, bowel health is important, right? Constipation can cause all kinds of problems. Now, I was telling you guys, oh, my goodness, I tell you. Yes. I was telling you guys that the Carmelo Anthony case, the liberals are already trying to use this Carmelo Anthony case to try to win blacks back to the Democrat Party, the party that just elected a Nazi in their primary to run for the United States Senate in Maine. And I saw something in front of the courthouse yesterday that I'm so suspect of. And if you saw the Carmelo Anthony case in the news, you had to have seen this. There was a white, when the verdict was first read, right, and before we had the sentencing, and there were people in front of the courthouse, there was a white guy who's probably in his 60s, and he had an American flag shirt on. Did you see this guy? He looks like he's by himself, and he just goes and faces down and stares down the black protesters and activists who were yelling at him, calling him names. One guy was jumping up and down in front of him, and he's just standing there staring at him. And this image went pretty viral. It was in all the news coverage. Well, first off, he was one of only a handful of white guys that were there, period, right? But he also had this American flag shirt. It kind of looked like a shirt like Wonder Woman or Captain America would wear. It has the blue field and the stars up top, and then the red and white stripes from the flag in the lower part of the shirt. And I don't know anything about this guy, but I don't believe that this guy is a MAGA guy. I just don't believe he's a MAGA guy. I think this guy, to me, the way he's acting is Antifa. You know, first off, what kind of MAGA person would show up with a red, white, and blue shirt like this and then just get in the face and start staring down the black activists that are losing their minds at the Carmelo Anthony verdict reading yesterday? I don't think many conservatives would do that. One, it's rude, it's not gentlemanly, it's dangerous, right? There's all kinds of reasons. But the way he was behaving, this is what makes me suspect about the guy, that he's a Democrat plant, is his tactic was an Antifa tactic. Antifa, what the Democrat activist and Antifa do, okay? And this is why I always tell people that are conservative, do not go to counter protest. Don't go to counter protest. You know, the liberals, they train their protesters, and they train them pretty hard. And one of the things they train them in is how to instigate violence that they're not responsible for, according to the letter of the law, right? And one of the things they do is stand and stare at you without moving or reacting right in your face to try to get you to touch them in the slightest way, even a brush, okay? And then all of a sudden, you've committed assault under the law. This guy is doing what Antifa does without a mask, okay? You know, and when they take the mask off of these Antifas, a lot of times they're old people. One of the reasons that they wear masks is to cover up their faces, not to protect their identity so much. Antifa wear masks because their old blue hairs are dorks, okay? And they don't want to be seen, for the most part, because they want you to think they're tough, some kind of warriors. And if you see their face, they're not very menacing, right? When you see them with their masks off. And this guy, he's using an Antifa tactic. That's number one. And two, he's too fearless as he's standing there. And I don't see him having any backup, but he's got to have backup. He's too calm, cool, and collected. So if you've seen the footage, he's the white old man with the American flag shirt on is the one I'm talking about. All right, let's take another call or two. A lot of stuff to cover today. Show's flying by. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hey, my name is Sue.
Okay.
Hey, how you doing?
Okay. What's on your mind?
I'm calling about the Carmelo Anthony nonsense.
Okay.
Basically, so I'm a black conservative, and I'm gonna tell you now, most of the black people that's gonna call up here, they're not gonna say that Carmelo was wrong. I seen earlier when the woman was like, it was both of them. She's not gonna say
that. Wasn't a woman. That was a man. That was Doc from Texas. Doc from Texas is a man. Yes.
Okay. Well, most black people not gonna say that he was wrong.
Why is that?
I've been posting on
Facebook. Why is that?
Because they get shunned. It's like they fear one another. They fear being shunned. They fear being excluded from things or whatever. I don't get why. I don't care about it. You see what I'm saying? I care about what's right and what's wrong.
Let me ask you: Are most black people the ones we're talking about? Okay, that aren't they just racist and hate whitey and isn't that a lot of
exactly what it is? They racist. They don't, but they feel like because they're black, they can't be racist. It's illogical.
Yeah, they say. Well, the old line was is black people that would say black people can't be racist. You have to have power to be racist, and we don't have power. Well, I don't know. Carmelo Anthony had a lot of power with that knife. He took a kid's life. That's power. Come on. Right. I mean, a black Obama judge has made a ruling that President Trump can't build his ballroom. That looks like power. We had a black president for 8 years. I mean, that's an old line that just doesn't apply. I think that the blacks that we're seeing at the courthouse, not only are they racist, they think it's okay that he killed a white kid. I think they think it's okay.
That's it. They awarded him. This is the problem that people have with me. They awarded him for killing a white kid. They gave him over $500,000 for killing a white kid. But if white people did this, it would be chaos. Mm-hmm. Everybody would be racist. But they find there's no issue to do it for a black kid. This shit is ridiculous.
Okay, all right. First dump of the day, Jeremy. You have to listen closely. First dump of the day, and he was a good guy. I know he didn't mean it, but he did it. First dump of the day, Jeremy. Oh my goodness. I can't believe we got this far into the show. All right. But it's time for a break anyway, and I want to talk about Coastal Weight Loss Secret. I've been telling you guys, I went out and bought all these new clothes, and I've gone with Coastal Weight Loss Secret. I've gone from a size large to a size small shirt, and I love it. It's great, And sometimes I'll see old pictures or videos of me before I lost all this weight, and it just on Facebook you get all these Facebook memories, that happened years ago, and I didn't realize how much weight I had gained. I really didn't, because I saw myself every day. And you gain weight slowly. And I remember when the first day I met with Coastal Weight Loss Secret, I met with Dr. Zuckerman over there, was Trump's inauguration day. I got off the air. I went to Coastal Weight Loss Secret, and then I met all you over at Wings Plus. And after I lost the first 25 pounds, which I did in 3 weeks, by the way, I started seeing pictures that people took with me at Wings Plus that were just 3 weeks old, and I was embarrassed. My face was round. Now I've got my jawline back, my neck back, everything's cool, and I did all of this without any exercise, eating foods I would normally eat, and without starving myself, and no pills or injections either. Give Coastal Weight Loss Secret a call and schedule your no-charge consultation. It works, and I've kept all the weight off. I haven't gained any of the weight back. 561-247-6300. 561-247-6300. That's 561-247-6300. And online, coastalweightlossecret.com. We'll be right back. All right. Yeah, the caller had used the S word. You can't use the S word. What do you think? Do you think this guy that I'm talking about there, do you think he is Antifa? Do you think he's Republican? His tactic, that is not how you would expect a Republican to act in a situation like that. What do you guys think? Let me know. Yeah, you can't swear. We're on the radio, okay? You cannot swear, guys. All right. If you'd like to call in, the number's toll-free, 888-465-2631. 888-465-2631. It's a toll-free call no matter where you are listening. And if you guys would like to support all the content I bring you, become a Patreon supporter. If you become a Patreon supporter, you get access to a lot of exclusive things that you don't get anywhere else that are exclusive to Patreon supporters. There's a link in the description of the video to my Patreon page, including my Patreon-only live streams that I do every day. I talk about things that I don't talk about here and things that I cannot talk about here. And you get those. And it's a live stream much like here on YouTube with a live chat. It's a great community. It's a troll-free zone. And when you become a Patreon supporter, you just don't get access to the material that is coming up, like the live streams that I'll do today or tomorrow. You get access to the whole past catalog as well. So there's a link in the description. Now, when you go there, you'll see this join for free option. If you join for free, you don't have access to any of the content there. It's like an empty page. You have to be a paying Patreon supporter. And that starts at just $5 a month, and you get access to that. So there's a link in the description. And if you'd like to get access to all of that and support my content, please become a Patreon supporter. Be greatly appreciated. If you'd like to call in, the number is pinned in the live chat, 888-465-2631, 888-465-2631. We'll be back in just a couple minutes. I'll take a quick break and be back with you.
What if the person reading your books believed every word was true? And what if your own family wanted you dead? Author Liz McCoy Hamilton delivers two unforgettable psychological thrillers packed with suspense, secrets, and shocking twists. In Kindred, a horror author retreats to an isolated cabin, only to find herself trapped with an obsessed fan convinced her novels are confessions to real murders. As reality and fiction collide, survival becomes the ultimate story. Then discover Frailty of Fact, a psychological thriller where Elodie Winters wakes up covered in blood, her sister fighting for her life, and everyone convinced she's the villain. But as buried family secrets surface, she must uncover the truth before the people closest to her finish what they started. Author Liz McCoy Hamilton's books are perfect for fans of suspense and thrillers that keep you guessing until the very last page. Order your copies of Kindred and Frailty of Fact from author Liz McCoy Hamilton on Amazon in Kindle, paperback, and free with Kindle Unlimited. These books also make great additions to your book club. Just go to Amazon.com and search author Liz McCoy Hamilton. Stuck or disconnected from yourself. EnlightMeCenter.com was created for the person who is ready to heal, reset, and reconnect with their purpose. At EnlightMeCenter.com, explore spiritual wellness services, emotional healing tools, guided resets, transformational courses, as well as inspirational merch designed to support your journey. Visit EnlightMeCenter.com to start your healing journey and claim your free 5-minute emotional reset. EnlightMeCenter.com.
Okay, we'll be back in about a minute. We're still in radio break, so hang in there. If you're on hold, stand by. I got a couple other topics I want to get into after the break. The number's toll-free, 888-465-2631. 888-465-2631. Okay. Just checking the time. Here we go. Okay. 40 seconds and we'll be back. Oh, man. I tell you, 75% of the Democrat voters elected a Nazi in Maine. Can you freaking believe this? What are they thinking? There's not one single redeeming quality about that man. All right, 20 seconds. Stand by. Welcome back, everyone. I'm Brian Craig. It's the Steve Kane Show, Florida's longest-running radio show. All right, so let's get back to it. So Graham Plattner, of course, won the primary. All the polls showing beating Susan Collins, and I'm no fan of Susan Collins, but we can't have a Nazi in the Senate. And I stand by what I said. If this Nazi somehow wins, the Republicans should refuse to swear him in and seat him in the Senate. We cannot have a Nazi in the Senate. This is CNN last night. Listen to this discussion on the...
There could be, but we are now witnessing the post-cancellation, post-purity style of politics that the Republican Party has ushered Well, but the Republican Party is absolutely holding it to a higher standard than they hold their own candidates. I mean, Donald Trump had a sit-down dinner with Nick Fuentes.
That's a lie, okay? So this is one of their talking points about Plattner, okay? He had a sit-down dinner with Nick Fuentes. That is not true, okay? Before Nick Fuentes was famous, or I should say infamous, somehow Nick Fuentes got hooked up with Kanye West. Kanye West, when President Trump was not president, this was during the Autopin years, Kanye West showed up unannounced at Mar-a-Lago and asked to come in. President Trump let him in. He had his entourage, of which Nick Fuentes somehow was a part of, and they had some type of lunch or brunch or something, and that was done by design. And I've heard some rumors on who was behind that. And I'm not going to say the name because I haven't heard them confirm, but if it's the person that I've been told by knowledgeable people was behind that, it's very disappointing, but it was a setup. It was a setup, okay? And Trump didn't know who he was, and most of us didn't know who Nick Fuentes was until after that. But anyway, so that's that. What this Democrat is saying on CNN about Trump having this sit-down dinner with Nick Fuentes is not true.
Donald Trump had a sit-down dinner with Nick Fuentes, and the very same people who were silent about that are now clutching their pearls about this admittedly weird tattoo that Graham Plattner has apologized for.
And the same Republican too.
Yeah, I'm not.
Acknowledge that.
Oh yeah.
Weird. It's a Nazi tattoo.
It's all good.
So I mean, look,
Okay, wow. It's not a weird tattoo; it's a Nazi tattoo, and they've got this thing going where it's a redemption story, right? It's a redemption story. When did he say, "I'm no longer a Nazi"? Right? And I regret being it. Not that there's any redemption from that. We don't give Nazis redemption, right? Once a Nazi, always a Nazi, and that's it. You don't go back from being a Nazi. So this idea that he's had a redemption story, that's a bunch of nonsense. These things have to be called out. They have to be exposed. And when this idiot Democrat on CNN is talking about Trump and others, our guys aren't Nazis, and they don't have Nazi tattoos, okay? That's it. Now, the people that recruited him, these Democratic socialists that recruited him, they gave an interview the other day to the Wall Street Journal, and they did not know about the tattoo, they said, and I believe them. But I guess they figured it worked for him. And he did not get the tattoo removed. He had it covered up. Now, Nancy Mace lost, and she's gone the route of Marjorie Taylor Greene. She's out of politics now. She was running for governor. She lost. It was a primary. And she went and after she lost, in an emotional rage, she went and endorsed the person that was not. There's a runoff going on. Okay, she didn't endorse the Trump endorsed candidate. She endorsed the one Trump didn't endorse in the runoff, which proves that Trump was right to oppose her. She said it was because of Epstein. Yeah, probably. The Epstein was a straw man. It was a fake issue they brought up, okay? Epstein was a creep, but he's been dead for years, and the reason he was brought to justice was because of President Trump. And everyone knew this. From the earliest days when that came out, you see, those of you around the country, here in South Florida, we knew about Epstein long before you did, because it was a criminal operation with the local police in Palm Beach County. And it was in the news every day forever before it was a national story. It was on the local television and in the local papers all the time. Oh, I was so tired of that story. And he's a weird guy, did a lot of crazy, weird things, no doubt about it. And he was a creep. But what we found out years later is that President Trump was the first person to turn him into the police. And not only that, the police chief, the city of Palm Beach police chief at the time, who's now retired, confirmed this. And when all the files were released, the police chief, his interview was in the files. And the whole Epstein thing was brought up by Never Trumpers, Republican establishment people working in collusion with God only knows who to bring down President Trump. Marjorie Taylor Greene was a part of that, and Nancy Mace was a part of that. Okay? And Massey, you know, he's like Charlie from Charlie's Angels, right? He's got this group of women that were doing his bidding. I don't understand what the attraction that Massey, he must be in person a very charismatic guy that doesn't come off over television, because he's really weird looking, you know, and all these women, you know, whether it's Boebert or Marjorie Taylor Greene or Nancy Mace, you know, they got this thing about Massey. I don't know what it is, but Massey somehow was able to get these women to do his bidding. And what happened? They've destroyed their political careers over it. And good, they were fake MAGA. And what they did, you know, we had a year of this fake major campaign against Epstein. And you may have noticed that we don't get all these calls about Epstein anymore. Why do you think that is? You know, and during that phase, we would have nonstop calls from these people of, oh, the files, you know. Why do you think we're not hearing from all these Epstein people anymore? Why do you think? And I was hearing from them all day, every day for a long time. And I'd put them on the air. I'd talk to them. You remember that, right? Why do you think we don't hear from them anymore? Why do you think? You know why? Seminar callers, fake callers put up by evildoers to call this show and get other content out all over the internet and everywhere else about Epstein, when there was never anything there other than Trump being cleared. And Nancy Mace was a part of it. Good riddance. Go to Costa Rica and hang out with Marjorie Taylor Greene and Brian Glenn, okay? And get you, you know, and like Massey likes to do. That's where you belong. We'll take a quick break and be right back.
As a doctor, I tell you, stop praying for God to take away your type 2 diabetes. He has already tested.
I'm queuing some things up for the next segment.
On the line is Jamie Leeback from Swift Tax. You know, Jamie, a lot of people probably missed the filing deadline for their taxes, and it's not too late for them to file, is it?
No, it's not, Brian. Actually, a lot of people who scramble for the deadline doesn't actually apply to them. If you, in general, get a refund every year and you is penalized for filing after the due date. Do not worry. Call me now. Jamie Lee that can to file your tax, whether or not it is past April 15th and you have not filed an extension. So call me now and get you filed and get your refund in your bank account as soon as possible.
Yeah, Jamie Lee back in Swim Tax has a direct line to the IRS and he can handle everything for you. Give him a call right now. This number rings directly to Jamie Lee back, 954-773-1587. 954-773-1587.
Yeah, guys, make sure you call Jamie Levac. And again, you can call or text Jamie Levac, 954-773-1587. All right. So what President Trump is doing, he's doing a lot of things, right? And Nancy Mace being primaried out is such a good thing. I never liked her. She was a sleaze. Remember a year or so ago when she was talking to a church group, a ladies' church group, and she came out and told them that she had just finished having sex with her boyfriend. I mean, my goodness. Total sleaze and, and good riddance. But the worst Republican is Thune. This is Thune yesterday. This guy makes me physically ill. See, this is not true. They now have 50 votes for the Save America Act, and we've got the tiebreaker, and that, of course, is the vice president. It does now. It's got him now. It does not. Yeah. See, what Trump's doing with this primary and everything that he's doing, because he's doing it in the Senate too, is we're going to win the midterms. We're going to maintain the majority and gain, and Thune's not going to be the leader. And he's just sitting back and waiting. President Trump in both of his terms has done a lot of important things. But the Save America Act, overturning Roe v. Wade, is very important. Everything he's done is important. But the Save America Act is quite possibly the most important legislation that President Trump would sign into law. It really would, because it would liberate us from the slavery of this. This filibuster, this 60-vote filibuster, is just a gentleman's agreement that can be done away with by the majority party at any particular time. We now have 50 senators to vote yes on the Save America Act. We've got the vice president, who's the tiebreaker in the Senate. We got it. And, Thune, it's sad to say, I mean, he's a Bush Republican. That's it. And, this is, those out there who just that don't understand the support that MAGA people have for President Trump, you'll never understand it. But one of the reasons are guys like Thune, because I tell you guys this often, because it's so important to understand. Before President Trump, almost all Republicans were like Thune. The ones that weren't would be there one term and would be out. They tell you what you want to hear. And even we all voted for it. We want it, but we need the 60 votes. We don't have the votes. So, we want it. Give me a break. Give me a break. No, the American people are too well informed. We understand what's going on. There may have been a time when the country wasn't as well informed as they are today. I don't know. But no one buys what John Thune just said, that he supports the Save America Act. You know, a lot of times what they do in both houses of Congress is when they know something is going to pass or not going to pass, they let people vote a certain way to save face. And that's what Thune's doing. Thune is the only reason the Save America Act or the Save America bill is not passed into law. He's the only one. The House has passed it like twice. We have the votes in the Senate now, and he won't do it. He is the one man that's stopping it. It's not Democrats. It's John Thune. He's the worst. Now, you know, to get the 50 votes is amazing when some of these Republicans in there are ticked off at President Trump. So how do they get to the 50 votes? I don't know. A lot of them are pretty ticked off because he's primarying people out. But out of, you know, overturning Roe v. Wade, I think is President Trump's greatest accomplishment. But that wasn't legislation, right? That was done through the Supreme Court appointments that he did that were spectacular because it happened. You know, but so far as actual legislation, I can think of nothing more important than the Save America Act that President Trump would sign into law, because the Save America Act would stop what just happened in Los Angeles, and what's probably, or at least they're planning on happening in the governor's race in California and around the country. And it's pretty simple. You have to be a U.S. citizen to register to vote, and you have to prove that, and you have to have the state issued photo ID to vote. You can't vote with a gym membership or something. You got to have state issued photo ID. And here in Florida, our driver's license now tell us whether or not you're a U.S. citizen or not. It's not even a controversial thing. Over 80% of the people support it. Over 50% of African Americans support it, and over 50% of Hispanics support it. The only people that oppose the Save America Act are Democrat activists and never Trumpers like Thune, Bush Republicans. That's it. Because the Save America Act, see, this is why the Bush Republicans like Thune are opposing it. With the Save America Act, we're going to have for the very first time nationwide the beginning of free and fair elections. And these Bush Republicans, they work with the Democrats on their operation. That the reason we call them rhinos, Republican in name only, is because they're really Democrats. And because they're Democrats, not really Republicans, they oppose it. It is out of everything that's on the Republican Party platform right now, it used to be Roe v. Wade, but we overturned Roe v. Wade. The Save America Act is number one on the list of importance for every Republican voter in the United States. Nothing else comes even close. And when you see John Thune up there insulting our intelligence, well, I voted for it, I want to pass it. Come on, you'd pass it. If the Democrats take over the Senate, they will do away with the filibuster the first day. It'll be gone. And everybody knows this. They've done it before. They'll do it again. And you know what? Why not? If you're in the majority, that's your prerogative. You know, the idea of the filibuster is for losers to still have power and juice and influence. Or in the case of John Thune, to throw a wrench in the machine, right? And stop stop the MAGA train of progress. Because he knows with the Save America Act, the Democrats are done. I would bet you at least 50 seats in the House of Representatives the Democrats hold, they would lose if the Save America Act were the law of the land. At least, maybe even more. And the same goes for these rhinos too. They'd be done too, a lot of them, on day one. Some of them might be, carry through because they got an R next to the name on the ballot, but most of them would be gone, and they'd be gone quick. And you know what? They know it. But I don't worry. President Trump's got everything under control. It's like, with other presidents, I'd be upset, I would worry, but I know President Trump has everything under control, like Iran. Look at what Iran did, right? President Trump has given them every single opportunity to do the right thing. They put him off, and then they shot down the Apache. They're lucky. that our guys in the Apache weren't killed. But he responded, and then what happened? The Iranians, they're attacking us now. So what's going to happen? They gave him the opportunity to do what it is he really wants to do, which is wipe him out. I have no maybe it's just me, but this is how MAGA people are. We trust Trump. Now some of you may say, "Oh, it's a cult, it's blind trust." No. We trust that he wants this agenda through more than we do. And he knows more about what's going on behind the scenes than we do, and he knows how to get it done. It's the first time that I can say that we have, with President Trump, it's the first time that we have an elected official that I trust fully with everything they do. And if he doesn't get something done, it's probably not his fault. It's people like Thune. Okay? Well, shame on him. Now, are you tired of security cameras that just cost too much money, that you can't install, or maybe you've installed it and it's not really installed right because it's really hard and they're not giving you the coverage or the protection you need? Well, give Sloman's a call. I'm going to give you the number in a moment, so go get something to write with. Sloman's facial recognition cameras recognize familiar faces and let you know when specific people arrive. And this is absolutely amazing. It connects seamlessly with your alarm system and your phone. So when you pull up to your house, the cameras in the house recognize that it's you or whoever you want it to recognize, unlocks the doors, turns the lights on, and everything for you. You don't even need keys to get into your front door with this. And right now, for a limited time, you can get it all for just $24.95 a month. You'll receive an all-in-one facial recognition door lock and doorbell camera, an outdoor camera, plus the Sloman Shield home security system that includes an LED keypad, 3 door or window contacts, a motion detector, and battery backup, and everything is professionally installed. Give them a call no matter where you're located, toll free, 833-283-5050. 833-283-5050. That's 833-283-5050. All right. Now, I'll go back to the phones in the 8 o'clock hour. You're welcome to call in about anything I've covered so far. I am going to cover more about Graham Plattner. I'll recap a little bit of the Carmelo Anthony, and there's a few things I haven't gotten to yet. But let me tell you something. What the Democrats did with Graham Plattner in Maine yesterday is so sick, twisted, and disgusting. It's really frightening to me. It really is frightening to me. You know, I never thought if my grandparents were alive, you know, like my grandfather was in Europe in World War II. He fought in Germany. You know, and I just wonder, what would my grandfather think that we have a Nazi who just won the Democrat primary? And, you know, what about the Holocaust survivors? If very few are still with us, what would they think? What, you know, what's going on in the mind of Jews right now in this country? You've got the rise of anti-Semitism, and now a Nazi got elected. And do you know why you haven't heard Jews standing up against this all over the internet and online? Why do you think? You don't see a lot of Jews on television or online calling out Graham Plattner. Why do you think that is? You know why? They're afraid. And I don't blame them. The Democrat Party has mainstreamed anti-Semitism. They've been doing it for the last year and a half. And now they just gave a primary victory to a Nazi. I'd be scared too. You know, it was bad enough with Mamdani in New York. And I told you guys, if I were a Jew and I was in New York and Mamdani got elected, I would leave the city. You need to move. It's not safe. But now Maine's not safe because he got like 75% of the Democrat vote last night. 75% of Maine Democrats voted for a Nazi. We'll be right back.
Who is named 2026's Best New Author in Veteran Fiction by Insider Weekly, comes a vigilante justice thriller for fans of Jack Reacher, military suspense, and stories that fight back against animal cruelty. Pit Bulls in Paradise, available on Amazon. After 30 years in the Army and 3 brutal combat deployments, John thought he'd finally found peace in Key West, but paradise has a dark side when he discovers a savage dogfighting ring tied to ruthless criminals and abused pit bulls. Forced into bloody battles, he can't walk away. Haunted by war, driven by loyalty, and fueled by his love for man's best friend, this veteran becomes a one-man army against evil. Now, the hunters are the hunted, and one wrong move could cost John everything. Justice is coming, and it has teeth. Order your copy right now on Amazon in Kindle, paperback, and free with Kindle Unlimited. Pit Bulls in Paradise from author Tony Soika on Amazon.
All right, we'll be back in just over a minute, guys. This is our top of the hour break. Yep, 1 minute. We'll be back. So hang in there. If you're on hold, stand by. Let me see. We got so much to get to. All right, about 20 seconds. We'll be back, guys. Welcome back, everyone. The 8 o'clock hour has begun. My name is Brian Craig. You're listening to the Steve Kane Show, Florida's longest running radio show on the radio since 1977, celebrating 49 years on the radio. You know, the things that are going on right now in the news cycle are nothing short of insane, what's going on, okay? This Carmelo Anthony case, I'm looking through the news during the break, and let me play this clip. This is a guy, another wannabe race pimp, and he's in front of the courthouse when the Carmelo Anthony verdict came in yesterday. Listen to this guy. Oh, boy, advocacy leader. By the way, do you notice this guy who's advertising his services? Do you know he's doing the fake Martin Luther King voice with the inflections? The Next Generation Action Network, is that an offshoot franchise from the National Action Network of Al Sharpton, or is this guy stealing Al Sharpton's name and changed one of the words or added a word to it? An ignorance of the law. Oh my goodness. Okay, yeah, with the Martin Luther King voice, you know, he's auditioning. If you need a rape pimp or a race pimp, not a rape, a race pimp, call him up. Look him up online, and he'll come and be your race pimp and help you out. There are a couple of things here. okay? Number one, without question, Carmelo Anthony was guilty of murder. I went through all the details. I'm not going to do it now of the crime and the murder and what happened in the first hour. So you can rewind the show and go back to that if you'd like, okay? I'm not going to go through all that now. But it's clear cut. He took out the knife and killed the kid. It was in a tent where there's no walls. He could have left and he didn't. That's number one, okay? There is no debating that Carmelo Anthony was guilty. There were multiple witnesses, and everything he did was wrong. You know, if here in Florida, you can carry a gun anywhere you want. Now, we have open carry in Florida now. We've had concealed carry for years. So even now during open carry or during the concealed weapon permit phase, if I were in my if I'm in a parking lot at the store, right, at a Publix or the mall, and somebody comes up to me and threatens me, I can't just take my gun and shoot them dead or grab a knife and stab them dead. You can't, you know, you just can't stand your ground and shoot someone or stab someone or kill someone in any way. For stand your ground to apply, not only must your life be threatened and in danger, threatened not in a verbal way, but actually you're in danger of losing your life, but also you cannot retreat. You cannot retreat. You have to stand your ground because you can't get away. If I was in the parking lot at the mall and somebody came up to me and I just shot him like that, even if they grabbed me or pushed me, I would go to jail. I have to make an effort to get out, to escape, and my life has to be threatened. And someone shoving you or grabbing your arm or wrist, that's not a threat to your life. So stand your ground doesn't apply, especially when you're in a wall-less tent that you can easily escape from. And he wasn't surrounded by a mob. It was a one-on-one thing. But the biggest injustice here, and people have been talking about this, is where did the crowdfunding money go? Over $600,000 was raised in crowdfunding. Why did Carmelo Anthony have a public defender? Where did the money go? Now, some people are saying that the parents took the money and bought cars and a house. I don't know. I don't know where the money went. Somebody got it, and somebody spent it on something. I don't know where the money went. I don't know. They say they didn't buy a house. They say they didn't buy a car. I don't know. I don't know what they bought. I don't know who got the money. You can't really find out. There was one article where the parents said they just got access to be able to withdraw it, and it was after people started saying they bought a house. I don't know where the money went. It doesn't matter if they didn't buy a house. I know where it did not go. It did not go to hiring a top-tier private attorney. They left it up to a public defender. How many of you would rely on a public defender to save the life of your child? I don't think very many people would. So if there's an injustice here, follow the crowdfunding money. Who withdrew the money and what was it spent on? We don't know. I know people, it's all over the internet that they bought a house. I don't know. All over the internet they bought cars and clothes. I don't know. People are saying that. I know George Floyd's family did that when they got paid off by the city. That's a fact because we saw it. If you saw his family before and after the settlement, you would see the way they were dressing. I mean, it was crazy. But where did the money go? So if Carmelo Anthony is going where he belongs in prison, the sentence is too short. He should be in there for life without the possibility of parole. Okay? But someone took that $600,000, and I promise you it's spent. Was it embezzlement? I don't know. Was it, these race hustlers? I don't know. But it was not attorneys. There was an incident that Steve's not here today, and I didn't bring this up earlier because I was going to bring it up with him, but he's not going to be with us today. So I'm going to tell you guys about it because it's relevant to Carmelo Anthony. Many years ago, there was an incident. I'm not going to say the name of the kid or the school because it was many years ago. I don't know what happened to him, and he could be a grown man with kids. It's been so many years. But he was in middle school, and he was black, and it was in the local paper. Some of you may remember this case because it was a big part of this show. And I just tell you what Steve Kane did and what we did here. And it was similar, but also very different than what happened with Carmelo Anthony. He was a middle school kid, black, and he was being bullied. Apparently he was being bullied pretty bad at his school, and he was scared, and he brought a knife, a pocket knife, to school. And in the lunchroom, the kids bullied him, and he pulled the knife out. Now, I don't remember if he cut any of it's been a number of years, so I don't remember if he cut someone with the knife or just pulled it out in the lunchroom and threatened the kids. Okay? I can't remember which it was. If anybody remembers the case in the audience, let me know. And it was in the local paper. It was in the Sun-Sentinel. It was in Broward County. And it was really a sad story. The kid, he was facing jail, he was scared. He was scared to go to school. He was being bullied, and he actually brought the knife to school because he was being bullied. I don't think he stabbed them. I don't think he cut anyone, but I believe, if I remember correctly, he pulled it out and to get away from him, and he got arrested, and he was facing jail. Steve Kane saw the story in the paper, and he called up an attorney that he knew, that I knew too, but that Steve knew. His name was John Contini. And some of you may remember John Contini. He's pretty well known in South Florida legal circles. And the kid had a public defender. And Steve got John Contini to represent him pro bono. And he saved the kid's life. He didn't go to prison. I don't remember what kind of punishment he faced. I don't know if he got off completely scot-free, if there was probation or something. But he didn't kill anyone. And he was actually in a bullying situation that was ongoing. And he did try to get away, and he couldn't when he pulled out the knife. If he would have had the public defender, he would have gone to jail. This kid, okay. And Steve saved him when he got John Contini to represent him. And the parents were very excited. I remember, I didn't meet with them. Steve did, and John Contini did. And I remember the parents were so excited that they knew when there was a private defense attorney with many years of experience that was going to represent their son, that he was going to save his life. And it did. Because he would have gone to jail, he would have come out institutionalized, and probably done something worse after. So why did they not use that $600,000 to get an adequate defense? And this is important because it's a clear-cut case. He was guilty as the day is long. But all these people are running around talking about a racial injustice. The only injustice that I'm seeing is that Carmelo Anthony was neglected by his parents and his community, because they would have made sure that $600,000 went to hire an attorney. Now, I am not saying that they bought a house with it. I know a lot of people are saying that. We don't know where the money went. I know a lot of people are saying it, but we do know it did not go to hire an attorney. So Carmelo Anthony was victimized by his parents and these community activists. If you're on hold, stand by. My name is Brian Craig. This is Florida's longest running radio show, The Steve Kane Show. Our number is toll-free 888-465-2631. Do you suffer from neuropathy? Then call Lighthouse Medical and schedule your no-charge consultation. I was over at Lighthouse Medical yesterday, and I met with the doctor and the staff over there. And there were 3 of our listeners there yesterday. There was a husband and wife and a third listener. And they were all being treated. And they were being treated for neuropathy. They do incredible work at Lighthouse Medical Center. They can give you your life back and rid you of neuropathy. You may have neuropathy and don't even know it. If you have any of these symptoms, Call Lighthouse Medical, schedule your no-charge consultation, and they'll examine you and diagnose you. Do you have numbness, pain, burning, tingling in your hands and feet, muscle weakness, loss of balance? Are you falling down all the time? Do you have the feeling of pins and needles in your hands and feet? Maybe you have no feeling at all. The symptoms of neuropathy can make life unbearable. Get your life back. Get rid of your neuropathy symptoms. Call Lighthouse Medical Center in Pompano right now. 754-222-6642. 754-222-6642. That's 754-222-6642. And online, lighthousemedicalcenter.com. We'll be right back. All right, if you're on hold, hang in there. There's 2 openings on the board, and I'll go to the calls when we get back. All right? I want you guys to look at this, okay? I just pulled up the crowdfunding, okay, for Carmelo Anthony, all right? And if you're on hold, stand by. We're in radio break, and I want to take the calls when we get back, okay? Let me see what time we're going to be back. I don't have time to go over this now, okay? I'll take some calls, and then I'm going to go over this. This is disgusting, this crowdfunding campaign. I just read it. What they said, pretty bad. Hold on, we're seconds away from coming back. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hey, Brian, it's Jonathan from Bellefontaine, Ohio.
Hey, what's up, Ohio?
Hey, how are you today, sir?
I'm doing all right. I mean, I'm a little upset. The Democrats just elected a Nazi to be in the Senate in Maine, but
yeah.
It's.
I mean, are you really surprised? To be honest, I mean, that's kind of the Democratic Party these days. I don't know. How you can vote for a Democrat.
Yes, I am surprised. He is an open Nazi. He has a Nazi tattoo on his chest. Yeah.
The Democrats hate Trump so bad they would nominate a serial killer if it meant they could get their agenda passed. But the reason I wanted to call and talk to you is this morning I woke up and I watch the news when I get up and before I take the kids to school and stuff, and I seen that Trump's finally had enough of Iran. And I think it's been too long. I'm a lifelong Trump supporter on everything, but enough's enough. I know we don't want to be in these endless wars or whatever, but here's the thing: we don't have to be in endless wars. If we go in and do what we know we can do, they don't want to negotiate. They negotiate so they can buy time to build up missiles and try to con us and get money and all this. I'm glad that he's finally had enough, and reports on Fox News are saying that he's finally going to go in and take care of it.
Yeah, it's over. Yeah, exactly. Well, here's the thing with Trump. Trump is a Christian man. He doesn't wear it on his sleeve like most politicians do. Okay, but he is very much a Christian, and I've heard him say at least 2 times, maybe 3 times, in the last couple of months, that he's worried that he won't go to heaven because he's killed people, right? Through being commander in chief. And what he's been doing with Iran is giving them every opportunity so he doesn't have to kill more people. And now he's got to do it, and it's something that weighs on his heart, and it's amazing. It's the first time we've had a president that is really truly a Christian leader like that, at least in the modern era.
Yeah, I wanted to hear what you had to say, what you thought about
I'm glad he's doing it.
I'm glad. I think he gave him every chance that he could, and I know the media is going to tear him up. And I thought it was hilarious the other day when he got up and walked out of the Meet the Press interview, because that's the same thing that, you know, we've talked about this before on air. It's like the media is just atrocious. But
well, you know, the Iranian leaders, you know, are insane. They're insane, and they just are crazy. They're fanatics and crazy, and I hope he obliterates all of them so we can get this past us in the world. Iran has been for half a century killing people, a lot of people, and enough's enough. All right.
Yeah, I hope that we. I know he's trying to do the right thing, but I think enough's enough. And I appreciate the show. I thank you for taking my call, and keep doing what you're doing, sir.
All right, take care. From Ohio. Love my callers from my home state, Ohio. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hey, Brian, it's Connie from Pompano.
Hey, Connie, what's up?
So I have two things to say. One, that is so awesome what Steve did for that kid. And it just goes to show you that when it's very clear what's happening, good people will rise up and help and put forth the effort. But that didn't happen here with this Carmelo kid, Carmelo, because it was pretty clear what was going on. But the problem is back then, this was under the what you said, the auto pen. The auto pen administration, they were living in like a delirious false sense of reality where their beliefs, they were believing that they were going to get this kid off. They really believed they were going to get this kid off. So on one hand, absolutely they spent the money, 100% they spent the money. Why wouldn't they spend the money? They thought they were set. They thought they were going to get hooked up.
Well, they won the lottery. They won the lottery.
They absolutely won the lottery. And they weren't thinking about the future. That the kid was they were living under.
Well, because they had the race pimps telling them that, and you know, I pulled up the crowdfunding campaign. They've raised $632,069.01. Now, there's two things about this that are very strange. Their goal, you know, when people put together crowdfundings, they put a goal of how much they want to raise. The amount that they want to raise is very strange. Listen to this. This is the goal amount that they want. $1,396,725. Why such an odd number? Why not like 1.4 million or 1.5 million? Why $1,396,725?
Because you have to account. Because you have to account for the 10% that the crowdfunding takes.
I don't know. That's an odd number. And I pulled up the description. Listen to this. This is in the description because where'd the money go, right? This is what they write on the crowdfunding for Carmelo Anthony. While legal defense is a critical part of this journey, we want to make it clear that this fund is not solely dedicated to legal expenses. The funds raised will also support a range of urgent and necessary needs that have emerged as a result of the situation, including, but not limited to, the safe relocation of the Anthony family. Okay, that's the house. That's a house, right? Due to escalating threats to their safety and well-being. Who's threatening them? Give me a break. Basic living cost, transportation, that's a new car, counseling, and other security measures. Okay, so they're telling you when the money, exactly. It was the lottery winnings.
And then when the administration changed over and it was Trump that got in, they didn't even bother hiring or going back into debt because they knew damn straight well that even if they paid top dollar, it was going to be pretty hard to get this.
Usually what people do that own a house is they sell or mortgage their house to hire a defense attorney. They do whatever they can do for their child.
But I think they didn't care about the kid. I think they washed their hands of him. I truly believe they did. They were like, boy, we got ours. Bye.
Well, my guess is, you know, you just don't get a knife and go and kill a kid one day. You know, he's probably been a pain in the butt to them, right? I mean, you know, that's just something you just don't go out and do.
Yeah, 100%. It's sad. It's very, 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 very sad.
It is.
That story about Steve was awesome, and
it was a big deal. Yeah, and I can't remember, but I can't remember all. It's been so many years, and the kid's probably 30 now. So you know, so I don't want to give his name out. I don't know what happened to him, but he was really being bullied. It was prolonged. Nobody would help him, and he did try to get away. And when he pulled out it was a pocket knife, if I remember correctly. I don't remember if he cut one of them, but he certainly didn't kill them. But he would have gone to prison for that at that young age if it had not been for Steve. All right, yeah, I was hoping Steve was here today because he'll remember more about it because he was more involved in it than I was. All right, I appreciate the call. Take care, Pompano. All right, let's go. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Except for me, Brian.
Oh, boy. Yeah, the Nazi won last night.
Yeah. You know, the good thing about Susan Collins is she'll get all the Republicans, probably 70% of independents, and she only needs a few points of Democrats that always vote for her because they like her. I don't think he has a chance.
Well, I'm going to tell you, a couple things here, Jeff. First of all, if you're in line at a grocery store and there's a Democrat in line with you, there's a 75% chance that they voted for a Nazi. Think about that. This is the thing. Susan Collins has had a safe seat in Maine. She hasn't really faced a serious challenger, has she, in a long time? She always seemed like a safe seat. I don't remember anybody talking about these Senate races in Maryland too much, right? The Democrat Party, the Democrat Socialists, have a big investment in this race, and they see it in play. So this is not a normal Susan Collins race. She's up against a well-funded, well-organized machine.
But you got to remember, Brian, it's not just the Democrats, it's the Republicans and independents. And the independents,
I hope you're right.
I really do believe. But I want to agree with you something big time you said earlier was the Save America Act must be passed. That's going to ensure integrity, election integrity, and get rid of the voter fraud.
Yeah.
Hands down.
Indeed.
And Thune's going to go. I don't know when he's due for re-election.
Well, he's not going to be the leader after in the new Senate, which will be in January, maybe December. I'm not sure when they swear in the new Senate, but when the new Senate comes in after the midterms, he will not be the leader anymore. That's why Trump's bringing in people like Paxton and primarying out senators, because Thune may still have his seat, but he won't be the leader anymore. It'll be a MAGA person like Rick Scott or somebody.
And one other thing I wanted to mention was Lindsey Graham won his re-election bid, and I was really shocked on that because I really can't stand that guy.
Oh, listen, you can. I don't mind Lindsey Graham because he's predictable. Whoever the strong male leader is, he's always going to gravitate to them. So that means as long as Trump's in office, Lindsey Graham will be with us, right?
Right. Susan Collins is kind of in the same boat, but
I'll tell you, I hope you're right about Susan Collins, Jeff, because if this guy becomes the senator, you think he's going to be the last Nazi they elect? They're going to see this as a new voting bloc, and we're going to have other Nazis in Congress. And I don't want to live in a Nazi America.
Right. Do you believe that this is a test run for the Democrat Party to see what they can push?
Yeah.
And they pick the
this is what they've seen. What they have seen is there's a lot of anti-Semitism in the country, and this was a test to see if they could win by reaching out to those anti-Semites, and they just did.
And it's shocking, even being from Maine, that many Democrats.
How do you think it feels being a Jew? And I got to tell you guys, I haven't heard from a single Jew today, at least not who identified, who commented about it, because they're all Anne Frank in the attic right now. They're scared. And I don't blame them. I would be too. I mean, imagine if you were black and a Klansman got elected to be a senator.
Right.
Right?
But in Maine, law enforcement would put an end to anything like that in a heartbeat. I'm telling you, Brian, Antifa, Black Lives Matter, and stuff like that never came to Maine.
The Nazis came to power because they made their way into the legislature, the Reichstag. Listen, I got to run, Jeff. I apologize. I'm late for the break, but I appreciate your call, and stay in touch because you have one of the most important races in this election is the Senate race in Maine, and I'll be talking about. All right, take it. Yeah, absolutely, and I'll be talking about that pretty much every day. I want to talk about Jupiter Joe Thomas and annuities. Joe Thomas, he's got this one annuity where you earn 15% on day one. And I've been telling you guys, if you invest $100,000 in the annuity On day one, you have $115,000. That's amazing, isn't it? Day one. It's right there in the account. You can see it. But when Joe Thomas was in studio with me Friday last week, he said to me, he says, but you only have to invest $25,000 to get this particular annuity with the 15% bonus. Do you realize on $25,000, 15% is like $3,700 and change? So your $25,000 becomes $28,000 and change on day one? Give Joe Thomas a call. I was talking to Joe Thomas too about this. You know, a lot of people, when they plan for their retirement, it's your husband and wife, right? You got a husband and a wife. And one thing people factor into their retirement is their Social Security. Well, when one of you pass, you lose a Social Security check. Yeah. You know, that's one thing I think a lot of people overlook in their retirement. They only have one. Now they get the larger of the two, but they only have one. You know, with an annuity, you can replace that lost Social Security check when your spouse has passed away, because you get that guaranteed check each and every month deposited into your account. Call Joe Thomas and schedule your no-charge consultation no matter where you're located. His number is 561-743-0999. 561-743-0999. And online, JupiterJoe.com. We'll be right back. All right, guys. Hang in there. Okay, we're going to be back in a couple minutes. I'm going to go straight to the phones when we get back, guys. So if you're on hold, stand by. If you would like to call in, the number's toll-free, and it is pinned in the live chat.
Some of the most meaningful gifts don't come from big companies. They come from family. At Selena's Studio Art on Etsy, every design begins the same way, with a mother, a pencil, and a lifetime of imagination. For years, she created hand-drawn characters for children's books. Funny, playful, and full of heart. Her work was recognized around the world, featured in magazines, and loved by generations of children. Now those same drawings are coming to life in a whole new way. From t-shirts and hoodies to mugs, coloring books, puzzles, posters, even home decor. Each piece at Selena's Studio Art on Etsy carries the warmth of a real story and the care of a real family. Every item is made with premium materials, carefully produced, and designed to bring lasting joy. Whether it's a gift for someone you love or something special just for you, Selena's Studio Art on Etsy has it. It's a legacy. Discover unique handcrafted designs that make people smile. Only at selenastudioart.etsy.com. That's selenastudioart.etsy.com. You owe back taxes? Jamie Levac at Swift Tax is here to help. He's helped people just like you with their IRS problems, and he doesn't charge those outrageous high fees the other companies demand. Jamie Levac at Swift Tax charges only a small fraction of what those companies charge. Stop worrying every time the mailman comes that he's bringing you a letter from the IRS. Call Jamie Levac at Swift Tax right now. 954-773-1587. 954-773-1587.
All right. Stand by, guys. Let's see. 1 minute. We'll be back in 1 minute, guys. If you are on hold, stand by. I'll go to the phones. I've got more to cover. And if you'd like to call in, the number's toll-free. It's pinned in the live chat. 888-465-2631. I mean, you see what they have here with the they tell you they need the money to move somewhere. They need the money for transportation. They need the money to live off of. That's the injustice. That's the injustice right there. In my opinion, I mean, how many of you are out there are parents would do that? Make money off your children, especially like that. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Well, Brian, it's a pleasure talking to you again. And I just got to say, you're absolutely right with this kid in his whole situation. He has totally been victimized by everybody around him. And I agree with you on that, sir. Yeah,
including his parents, because with this crowdfunding campaign, there's to make. When you're a parent, you see things from a different perspective. I wouldn't take one penny from my daughter, right? Like if your kids ever borrow money, do you take it back? Do you have them pay you back? No. You know what I mean? Yeah, you wouldn't.
Well, Brian, the right thing is you make them pay them back because it teaches them responsibility.
Oh, please!
But
You're there's
why the parents victimize.
Yeah, go ahead.
The reason why the parents victimized the boy is because they had never, ever been exposed to that kind of cash before. And to be honest, money corrupts all, sir.
Well, it doesn't corrupt all. President Trump's a billionaire. He's not corrupted.
Well, he may be a billionaire, but he owes over $1 billion in court losses that he still has not paid, sir. And that's a fact that you can't get around.
Oh, so you think Trump is immoral?
Well, I think for the fact that he has to pay his wife to even be around him shows that he's
immoral. Oh, this is interesting. I didn't know. Wow, you're slow down. No, slow down something. Slow down. This is amazing. It's amazing. And, I was talking to this guy on our cruise, on our last MAGA cruise, and he works in Hollywood, and he's worked on.
It's kind of sad though. You
hold on a second. And he works on. Yeah, we do a MAGA cruise every year. Our 11th annual one's coming up in March. But hold on, excuse me, I'm speaking. Wow, and he works on movies and TV shows. And I told him, I said, one cool thing about my job is you meet so many interesting people. And you must be in the Trump organization or something. You said that President Trump pays Melania to be his wife. You must be a real insider to get that information.
No, that's not what I said. You are misquoting my words.
Oh, well, all right, correct the record.
What I said is every time Melania makes an appearance with Donald, she gets $75,000.
Where did you get that information?
Well, that's been posted all over the place.
Oh, it's on the internet. Oh, okay. Yeah, right.
Oh, yeah. Well, just like you're on the internet.
Yeah, but excuse me, but not documents. I'm here now. I want to ask you. Before you get to that, I want to ask you this question.
Okay.
Because you're a grown adult man in America, and I'm very interested in why a grown man in the United States is a Democrat. You said you're a Democrat. Why are you a Democrat?
I do not claim to be a Democrat.
You just said it a minute ago.
I never said I was a Democrat.
You said that's why we Democrats when I was talking about the cruise.
I said that Democrats don't have cruises. I did not join myself into that part of the group, sir.
Oh yeah, we have. Yeah, okay. Well, it's a private cruise, and you're not invited. You're not. No liberal stowaways are allowed.
I wouldn't want to go on a cruise anyway, sir.
Well, no one would want to spend a week with you at sea. I promise.
Oh well, you want to know something? It's really funny, Brian, because I am a very public figure where I'm at. And I speak with Republicans and Democrats all the time.
Oh, my goodness.
And I have a very good rapport with everybody.
Yeah.
And you want to know why? Because I don't live a political affiliation.
Oh, okay.
I live to be real.
Okay. All right. So what is your question? You said you had a question for me. What was it?
Well, I do. I have a question
Here
about
we
the
go.
USC thing that's going on. I mean, they put that big thing up in front of the White House, and you do realize that that is the people's lawn and not Trump's lawn, right?
No.
You do
Nope.
understand? Do you understand
Nope.
that, Brian?
No, that's not true.
You don't understand that? You don't understand that's the people's
Boy,
house and
no.
not his house?
Nope. Nope.
No, that's not the case?
No.
Well, that's his house, right?
It is
Is that what you're saying, Brian?
well, it's hard to
Is
say.
that what you're
It's
saying,
hard to
Brian?
say anything when you're flipping out and you're talking as fast as an
No,
auctioneer.
I'm asking you a specific question.
I am
You're not
answering. Well, I'm
Okay, what
answering
is
your
it?
question, but to answer it, you have to stop talking.
Okay.
Okay.
Whose house? Whose house is it?
It is the White House is a couple of things. It is the official home and resident of the President of the United States, whoever they are. That's number one. It's also next door is in the West Wing in the Eisenhower Building is the executive offices of the president. But you say it's the people's house. Excuse me. You say it's the people's house as if we're entitled to be there. When the Obamas were president, do you you may recall this? You're such a well-connected and informed person. Even if you don't recall it, I'm sure you'll say, yeah, you do, just to so you sound like you're a guy in the know. Michelle Obama, when she was first lady, shut down the White House tours and wouldn't let people go to the White House on tours. She said she didn't like the idea that regular people could walk downstairs while they were upstairs living. So people weren't even allowed to take tours of the White House when she was first lady for years. So if it's the people's house, why did Michelle do that?
I have no idea because I've
Well,
never
yeah.
heard that before.
Yeah, well, it's true. Wow, you're not as well informed as I thought.
Excuses. You know, well, at least she was there.
What does that mean?
Melania's not at the White House.
Oh, Melania's not at the White House.
But
Now I know. Now I know who these people are. The people that you talk to. This group of this group of people you talk to. This is the support group at the mental health facility, right? Because you're nuts.
Who's paying for this UFC thing?
I don't know.
Who's paying for it, Ryan?
I don't know.
Who is paying to put everything back to normal once it's
not
over?
you?
There's estimates of $700,000 just for the
not
guns
you.
alone.
You're not paying for it.
Well, the American public's going to pay for it.
No,
I pay taxes, sir.
Oh, really? What kind of taxes do you
pay? Taxes.
What kind of taxes do you pay?
Well, I'm in a pretty good tax bracket, so I pay
what
every
what
year
tax bracket are you in?
Does that even matter?
You brought it up.
Every person, regardless of what they pay, still pays taxes.
No, they don't, sir.
Yeah, most definitely.
I don't know what is it with all these nutbags that are always going to be
$60,000 a year.
You what?
Okay, I make over $60,000. I make over $60,000 a year.
Ooh.
So I pay quite a bit of.
That was a big deal back in '83.
Well, you know, I don't really base value on money.
No, you're the one's bringing up money. You pay $68,000 a year. You're virtually paying no taxes. President Trump gave you
I pay more taxes than President Trump does, you loser.
You make $68,000 a year, and you. Oh, there we go. All right, there's the second dump of the day, Jeremy. The second dump of the day. Oh my goodness. Second dump of the day. If you're on hold, stand by. Oh my goodness. Why couldn't he just call me a loser? Why did he have to add that word to it? It was just getting good. You know, when he said, I make $68,000 a year, you know, that it kind of reminds me of Austin Powers. Remember Austin Powers? And they thaw him out, you know, and they had, what was the villain in Austin Powers when he was the super villain, right? And he was and they thought, and he was a super villain from the past. And he was holding the world hostage for $1 million. And they laughed. For this guy to say that he's paying more taxes than Trump and he's earning $68,000 a year. Oh, my goodness. That may very well have been Mike Myers, Austin Powers, international man of insanity. I want to talk about Coastal Weight Loss Secret. I've been talking this week because I'm so excited. I finally went out and bought a whole bunch of new clothes. And I went down 2 shirt sizes. Before I lost all this weight with Coastal Weight Loss Secret, I wore size large. Now I wear a small, and they are like fitted shirts. You know, they're fitted. They look like they're fitted. They fit me like they're supposed to fit. You know, and I used to, I had to buy shirts that were a little bigger than I really needed because of my belly. I had to have the belly, you know. I didn't want anything tight on the belly. So I'm always wearing shirts that were so big. And to wear clothes that fit and fit well and you look good and you feel good and you're slim and trim, it's life-changing. Thanks to Coastal Weight Loss Secret, I lost the weight. I've kept it off. I did this without any pills, without any shots, without starving myself, and eating foods I would normally eat. Oh, yeah, and no exercise. Give Coastal Weight Loss Secret a call and schedule your no charge consultation right now. 561-247-6300. 561-247-6300. That's 561-247-6300. And online, coastalweightloss.secret.com. We'll be right back. Oh, my goodness. I tell you, these callers, it's a living. Oh, gee whiz. You got to love these callers. All right, and it's time to check in with William Youngerman from the offices of William Youngerman Incorporated in Boca on the first floor of the Bank of America building just east of US 1 Federal Highway on the south side of Palmetto Park Road with today's gold and precious metals report. William Youngerman, how are the metals looking today?
The metal's still showing weakness, excuse me, while the markets continue to drift lower and go down and test some of those support levels that we haven't seen in quite a while. Gold putting in a yearly low yesterday, with gold dropping $84.60, closing out the day at $4,174, trading in a range of $41.72 to $42.58. Silver was down $1.84 at $63.33, while platinum was down $67 at $1,655, and palladium was down $32 at $11.82. Overnight, we saw gold trade in a range of $41.28 to $42.58, and right now we're at $4,160. That's down $98, with silver down 67 cents right now at $64.54. Platinum down $48 at $1,674, and palladium basically unchanged at $1,214. That was the one that we said that was the best on the charts the other day, and that one has performed the best in this downward cycle that we've seen for the precious metals, which they can give it back just as fast as they can gain it. So we'll see where this goes from there. We're getting down to numbers that we haven't seen in quite a while, and numbers that are on the charts looking very good for buying opportunities.
Yeah, you know, all my buddies that are metals guys, you know, gold, silver, everything else, These are the days they get excited, right? I mean, it's the the metals are the only investment where I have friends. Everyone gets so excited when things are on sale because when it comes to the metals, almost everybody can afford to buy with the fractional sizes and everything else, and it's a time to increase your metal possessions. It's a great thing. Give William Youngman a call while the sale's on. The number's toll free. He opens up at 10 a.m. 1-800-327-5010. 1-800-327-5010. And his address, 150 East Palmetto Park Road in Boca, on the first floor of the Bank of America building, just east of US 1 Federal Highway on the south side of Palmetto Park Road. And find both his address and phone number online at WilliamYoungerman.com. All right, William Youngerman, we'll talk tomorrow.
Okay, have a great day. Thanks.
All right, take care. That last guy, that lunatic I was just talking to, Austin Powers. That'll be who he is. Austin Powers, international man of mystery there. I want to talk about what's going on in D.C., okay? And I've been thinking, I haven't been to D.C. in a long time, and I'm thinking of flying up out of Donald John Trump International Airport in Palm Beach. And I told you guys, I want to wait. I haven't gotten any reports yet. When can I get luggage tags that say DJT? Because I want those. And I want to get the first, I want to get as a collector, I want to frame it. I'm going to get a DJT luggage tags, and I'm going to frame them and keep them. They're souvenirs of this great era and will be valuable one day. But I'm going to take a day trip up to D.C. out of Donald John Trump International Airport in Palm Beach. That is the official name of it. Starting next month. All these things that President Trump's doing, okay, the UFC fight, the beautification of the monuments, building the arch, you know what he's doing? He's getting people to want to travel to DC, right? He's getting, a lot of times people go to DC once or twice as a tourist. They might go with their kid when they're in 5th grade and they go up, or something. There's all those trips, maybe one other time. But he's trying to get people to go to DC as tourists and visit it. And you know what? They are. Not just now for the 250th anniversary, 4th of July, but all the time. Everything that he's doing, however much it costs, and so far as the UFC, I would imagine the UFC is covering a lot of that. It's great publicity for them. I don't think taxpayers are paying for it because that's all I'd be hearing about in the news if they were. But look at what that does. How many of you are thinking of going to D.C.? I didn't go to D.C. for a long time because I didn't think it was safe for a MAGA person to go during the Autopin era. And now with all, I was going to go up for the 250th, but I couldn't get a hotel room that was reasonable anywhere near the city. So I'm not, but I am going to go up soon, just for the day or maybe an overnight trip, just to see all the beautification and everything, and maybe I'll make a YouTube video of it too, of course, like I make YouTube videos of everything I do. But everything he's doing for the UFC fight and everything else gets people to go to DC and spend money there as tourists. And that's a good thing. And another thing too is he's making Washington, D.C. a city that we can be proud of. When it's filled with the filth and graffiti, it's embarrassing to the country and to the president for these important people from around the world. You see them go to the White House. On the way to the White House, they got to go through crime-ridden areas filled with graffiti and everything. That's embarrassing as a nation. This is the United States is the greatest country in the world. It's the greatest country that's ever existed. We're the richest nation in the world and have the largest economy in the world. And when people visit the president of the United States, not just this president, but future presidents, they should drive to the White House through a beautiful city, not a city that's filled with crime, dumps of graffiti on everything and crumbling and falling down. It doesn't look good for the country. And any half-decent American would be proud of that. You want your capital city to be a dump. And so far as the UFC, I'm not a big UFC fan. I used to watch boxing a lot when I was younger, and I've always been into boxing, but I've never been a big fan of UFC. But I'm going to watch this one, and maybe they'll hook me in. So I imagine most of the cost is going to the UFC. But President Trump, they asked him last week at a White House press conference how long that ring was going to stay up, and he started talking about the Eiffel Tower. And he says, and if you've seen it, the UFC ring, it's like higher than the White House. He said, they put the Eiffel Tower up for the World's Fair, and they kept it there. He says, maybe we'll keep it there, like the Eiffel Tower. And then he says, no, I'm just kidding. He was just trolling, trying to freak him out and everything. And sure enough, it did. I want to talk about life imaging FLA. In 30 to 40% of heart attacks, the first symptom is sudden death. And, I've known so many people that have had heart attacks over the years. Some family, some friends, some people I was just fans of. Like there was a guy that I was a big fan of that I got to meet a few times that died in December, had a heart attack. No idea that he had heart problems. He didn't have any idea he had heart problems. No one knew he had heart problems. His family didn't know he had heart problems. And boom, he had a heart attack and dropped dead right before Christmas. It's sad. If his name is Adam the Woo, if any of you are familiar with Adam the Woo, I got to meet him a few times, and it hit me pretty hard. I was in shock, and so are a lot of others. And he and I are the same age. And if he would have gone to Life Imaging FLA and had the heart scan, he'd be alive here today doing what he normally did, because they would have found the blockage. He would have gone to the doctor, and it would have been taken care of. Call for your free heart scan, valued at $699 with a few minimum requirements. From your cell, call pound 250 and say free heart scan. You'll be connected in seconds. That's pound 250. Just say free heart scan and you'll be connected in seconds. Life Imaging FLA have locations in Dade, Broward, Palm Beach County, and Orlando. Those of you that are up in the Orlando area. Okay, give them a call. I had the scan myself. It takes a few short minutes. So just let me finish up. If you're on hold, we'll be back tomorrow. Okay, 'cause I don't want to get sidetracked into anything else. But a couple things I want to touch on right here in the end. Okay, I put this on my X, this Carmelo Anthony crowdfunding, of which the money went to everything other than a defense. If you hear anyone talking about an injustice with Carmelo Anthony, point them to that crowdfunding campaign. Every news outlet in America is talking about Carmelo Anthony. The over $600,000 from the crowdfunding, that's the story here. The jury's already decided. He's convicted. He's going to prison. 35-year sentence, eligible for parole in 17 and a half years. Should be a life sentence. Of course, they'll try to appeal. Maybe they'll appeal. I don't know. But the story is, where did the money go? And all these national news outlets are covering it. It's pretty easy to find out. If you go and look at where they're living now and what cars they're driving and where they were living before and what cars they were driving. I'm talking about the family, the parents. I remember George Floyd. I couldn't believe this. George Floyd's family, when it was all settled, they had a press conference. And I remember they were dressed like Al Sharpton and Johnny Cochran. And George Floyd's girlfriend that he wasn't married to was wearing rags. And they were wearing expensive, because they got that big civil settlement from the city, remember? These incidents aren't supposed to be lottery winnings for the family. And while the Democrats are trying to start a race war on the eve of an election, if Carmelo Anthony was I don't believe he was victimized. He's a murderer and he should go to prison for the rest of his life. But the injustice wasn't with that jury, it wasn't with that judge, and it wasn't in that courthouse. The injustice was when someone took the $631,999.01 and spent it on God knows what, but not a legal defense. That's the injustice. My name is Brian Craig. It's the Steve Kane Show. We'll be back tomorrow morning at 6 a.m. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. God bless America. All right, we're clear. Hey, guys, don't leave. Before you go, please like the video before you go, guys. Liking the video helps so much. Liking the video gets the video recommended to people that have not yet found my channel. So please like the video. Those of you that are new, welcome to the show. Please subscribe. I'm live here every weekday morning and weekend morning. So 7 days a week, you'll catch me live in the morning. I am here in the afternoons during the week as well. And I'm always taking live calls in the studio, okay? So those of you that are new, welcome. And while this is where MAGA comes to talk, you don't have to agree with me to call in. All opinions are welcome. Well, guys, I got to take off. I've got an appointment this morning, but I'll see you in the afternoon, all right? Take care.